of 10 is the music.
Hell yeah.
Man, we're live.
Now, I would like to say that I can hear that music through your headset, so I don't know if it's going to come double when you
Yeah, I can
actually
hear it
have the
too.
recording. I mean, not the worst thing in the world, but
Ugh, having the island.
Yo, what's up? Great comment there, straight off the bat there. What's
Uh-huh.
up, some other Josh? You take all the time you need, buddy. Welcome along to a very, very special episode of Please Be Excited Presents. We're doing a Last of Us 2 SpoilerCast. So I've been wanting to talk about that game for a very long time, so it's going to be very exciting. Before we get into it, though, we have some very special guests with us today. So we'll go through, first off, making second appearance on Please Be Excited. It's Beth. What's up, Lady Macbeth?
Hey,
What?
how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. You ready to talk about some Tilu too?
Oh, I have so many thoughts and feelings, and I'm going to explode if they don't get out.
Nice. I'm very excited. Now, you're from twitch.tv/Lady Macbeth, that's right?
Yes, I am. I'm a variety streamer. I pretty much just play whatever, either multiplayer or single player. Yeah, and then I also do trivia at different pubs and breweries around my town when there's not a pandemic.
Nice. Alrighty. Oh, now just to clarify too, Beth is spelled BHTH when you're chucking that into your Twitch
Yes.
stream to follow, you know?
Yep, it's the second Hebrew letter.
Nice. And next up we have Philip J. Woodward. How you doing, Phil?
good.
How many?
Always
I
good.
can't even count how many times you've been on this Please Be Excited content.
Yeah.
That's always a good
I'm,
time.
I like to joke that I'm the discount Kevin Asex, that Snowbike Mike has.
You are my Kevin A6. And where can people follow you, buddy?
Phil J. Woodward, at Phil J. Woodward on Twitter, and that's pretty much what I do. That's it.
Nice, buddy. Love it, love it. And then possibly we might have nanobiologist, maybe? How you going, buddy? Making his debut on Please Be Excited. Nice, buddy. Nice. And you are twitch.tv/ the nanobiologist? Nice. Nice, buddy. Oh, it's good to have you here. Oh, sounds like they might not be able to hear you, Nano. Is your party chat set to share? That's weird. Let me have a look. That's all good.
Hello, everybody. I'm here.
We'll just go.
I'm not being sneaky stealthy.
We're just gonna do a wee rewind.
I
And we,
wanted to be like the Kevin who you guys can never hear, but like you guys can hear, but the chat can't.
My only problem with that is I want you to be able to put like 8 creepy nano faces all over the screen, just like Kevin.
Oh, I wish. If only.
so we've got the nanobiologist. Welcome along, Nano. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty well.
That's
Hanging in
good.
there, trying to survive with the new puppy.
Nice, nice. I'm very excited that Sushi's got a friend. Now, what's your new puppy's name?
Mochi, like
Mochi.
Mochi, the
That's right.
Japanese ice cream.
That's awesome. It's so cool, buddy. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We may or may not also have Rom GL joining at some stage. I don't think he'll be able to make it, sadly, but if he can, he'll just pop on and we'll just make it work. That's all good.
We love him anyway.
We do love you, Robin. Thank you so much, buddy.
Our representative from Sweden,
We know you had some hot takes, so we'll have to get those hot takes at some point. All right. So first off, I thought we'd just go through and just go through everyone and just sort of see firstly what their experiences was with the actual Last of Us franchise as a whole. So I'll probably start with the first game just briefly, sort of just a quick sort of minute or two just about what you sort of thought of the first game. So first off, we might start with Beth. So what were your sort of thoughts on the Last of Us, Beth? What was
Um, I actually got into The Last of Us, the first game, with the PlayStation 4. I never had it for PlayStation 3, so I got the remastered version, and somehow, because probably I wasn't searching for it, it was never spoiled for me. So I got to go into it with fresh eyes, like years later, and it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I didn't like the gameplay, like the controls, because it was very, like with Naughty Dog games and Uncharted, it's very diagonal running, I feel.
mm,
So it took a little bit for me to get used to because I wasn't really an Uncharted person. But I loved the character development. I loved the music, and just overall, it became my second favorite game of all time.
awesome, awesome? And before we do that, shout out to you, Virtual Tricks. I see you there. Thanks for joining us. And Nano, what were your thoughts on The Last of Us?
I've always been somebody who thought that Naughty Dog games are fun, but not the greatest games. But I would still play them when they came out because they're exclusives, and I love to play any exclusive that comes out for any console.
Mm,
And I didn't get through it the first time I played through it on the PS3, but then the PS4, it came out. I beat it once, one weekend, beat it again with my girlfriend, and we really enjoyed the story then. But it still just felt like, yeah, it's just a normal, average zombie game, really, with some twist in it.
yeah, cool, buddy. And Phil, what did you think of the first game, Phil?
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of in the same boat as Nano when it comes to Naughty Dog games. Like I enjoyed Crash back in the day. I've never actually played Jack and Daxter. I'm gonna throw that out there. And I wasn't a
Slightly
huge
different games.
fan. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Uncharted, so I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about The Last of Us because I love zombie stories. I love pretty much, anything infected or zombie related. It's my definitely my genre of choice. So this game really spoke to me in the narrative. But being a Naughty Dog game, I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to feel about it.
Mm,
And there were definitely gameplay portions that kind of I hung up on in the first game. Um, but narratively and as Beth said, the music and everything really grabbed me as being a fan of that genre. From the very first moments, that's a very gripping opening scene in The Last of Us One. Um, and yeah, I was pretty much in it all the way from that point until I finished it on PS3. And then as soon as it dropped on PlayStation 4, I bought it again and replayed through the entire thing um, on PlayStation 4, and yeah, from that moment, it was just all the way through for me. I loved every minute of it,
nice,
both times I played through it.
nice, buddy. I guess my experience of the game is just absolutely loved it. I thought it was an absolute masterpiece, just a absolute masterclass in storytelling. Thought it was one of the most impactful and meaningful endings of any form of media for me personally. When I first played through it, the ending, I was kind of, I didn't like it. It took me a while to sit on it, and then going back, thinking about it, replaying the game, it's just, yeah, me personally, I absolutely love it. But I am kind of a Uncharted fanboy as well. I love Naughty Dog themselves right from the get go, right from Crash back in the day. So,
Yeah,
um,
I really liked how that they were telling their own story. Like you were just saying, you loved it through and through. Like I really loved the fact that they were telling their own story. They weren't just kind of letting you make the choices. They were making choices for you, and I thought that was something that was really
mm,
interesting to see narratively.
yeah, 100%. Cool. Well, with that, we might actually just go into, first of all, our spoiler-free impressions of The Last of Us 2 before we get into the heavy spoilers. So we might just keep it in the same order, actually. So, Beth, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on The Last of Us 2?
uh, Brutal, emotionally taxing. I think the gameplay was better, much better.
Yep.
Like the controls, which I absolutely loved. Just exhausting. It was exhausting.
Mm.
But good and bad kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't think, in my opinion, it ranks as high as the first one for me. But that's just for me.
Cool. Nice. And Nano, what are your sort of thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2?
I thought it was okay. Um, I felt like there was too much violence for the sake of violence,
Mm.
and incorporating too many violent elements to push a story when it felt like they wanted to hit a story that was more emotional, but instead of going emotional in some good ways or have some sad moments, they just went the emotional parts were all tied to violence, which was a little too much in the end.
Mm. Cool. And Phil, what are your thoughts on the game, buddy?
Um, I really enjoyed it. It was very hard to it was both hard to put down, but also to play for long periods of time. As Beth said, it's very emotionally taxing
Mm.
because of as Nana said, the violence and the emotional beats of the story. It can be very hard to keep going. There's definitely some moments in there where I just almost wanted to put down the controller and stop playing. Period.
Mm.
But then once I cooled off, like I was instantly kind of feeling the itch to go back.
Mm.
Um, so I definitely think that it hit some higher highs than the first game, but it definitely hit some lower lows. But gameplay wise, definitely better. And as we were joking prior to the stream, the music is still 10 out of 10.
Oh, it's incredible. 100%. Nice, buddy. I guess for me personally, I'm kind of kind of torn on the game. I definitely had some issues, pretty big issues with the game, but overall, I still thought it was an absolute masterpiece and absolutely loved it for the most part. Like I say, very taxing, but the overall game itself I thought was fantastic, even though I had some slight issues, which I guess we'll get into later. But I still thought it was an absolute masterpiece and still loved it. So yeah, I can see how it was pretty divisive when it came out. Yeah, so that's pretty much everyone's thoughts there on the game so far. So now we're actually about to get into some very heavy story spoilers. So if you haven't played the game, or if you don't want to get spoiled, this is the point where you'd probably want to jump out. We don't want to ruin it for you because it's still, I think, regardless, it sounds like most people are saying it's definitely worth playing through. We're just going to go through, firstly, in order of some bullet points. I thought we'd just go through and discuss those. And then, sort of, more towards the end, we'll get some overall thoughts from everyone in regards to their thoughts and feelings about the game once we can actually fully talk spoilers. So, this is very exciting for me. I'm very excited to talk about this. So, I thought we'd also, once again, kind of, when we go through these bullet points, we'll start with one person and then we'll maybe just add to it once that person's talked about it. So, first of all, when the game opens up, we have Joel talking to Tommy, obviously kind of recapping as to what happened at the end of the first game. So I guess once again, we'll probably start with you, Bev. So how did you feel about this opening scene?
I actually kind of liked it because it brought you back into that vibe of the game. Like it brought you
Mm,
right back to that first game. I I liked seeing Joel actually talking for once and sharing his feelings and not being so shut down because that's what he was for so much of the first game. He was so
mm,
shut down. And so I like seeing him grow as a character actually because I felt like that's what he did in those scenes. Um, God, and it made us relive the entire ending of that game again, which I liked a lot. I actually agreed with him, but I feel I understand why it was so controversial because I mean, one person for the world and all of that. I don't know. I liked it. I like being caught up, and
mm.
it just made me feel that vibe again and get right back into that mindset of the first game. So I thought they did that very well, actually.
Nice. And what about everyone else?
Go ahead, Nano.
Yeah, I thought that the way that the game ends with it forcing you to make that decision was really hitting because it made it feel like it is their story to tell, not a, something that you could change, and then eventually they need to make a decision on like, what was the true ending. So experiencing that and going on from there would felt made it hit harder than I thought it would,
Mm,
especially working in the medical field and knowing how important certain medical advances are, like curing a unstoppable pandemic. Not related to the current times right now at all. And like, what would it take to really save the world and bring it back to normalcy to some degree? And how much personal choice and personal feelings really affect that in the long run.
Mm.
So, I mean, thinking about it now with the current times, it definitely feels like it hits harder because we've been experiencing that almost daily. But it's still, I think it's a great ending, and it ties it so well. It was like this person thought he had a choice, but he also took the choice from somebody else whose choice it really was to make. But even though they didn't really have that choice, keep on saying choice, but it still was like a fantastic ending that was a bow, just like a bow on top of a really fun package. Even though I wasn't a big fan of the journey for most parts, it was still a fun story to go along with.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I agree with that, 100%. And Phil, what do you sort of think of
Yeah.
the opening, buddy?
So I really liked the way that it opened. It was a very calm opening. I thought it was a very different opening than what we got in the first game, which I thought was good. It was a nice different pace. It kind of showed you that this was definitely going to be a different type of story, a different type of game, and they weren't just trying to rehash the same motif um, as the first game. And it also, as Beth said, it kind of catches you up and gets you back into that universe in a really good way. I do wonder like how that plays for someone that never played the first one, because there's got to be some people out there that just played that, and I wonder if it was enough information for them, not knowing who these characters were, to see that cutscene and then kind of have a basic understanding of what's going on.
Mm.
Um, um, oh my gosh, my brain just totally died. There's a great saying when you're like a comic book writer that each comic book should be able to introduce the character or the reader to these characters and get them excited to keep reading, no matter uh, what numbered comic book they're getting in on.
Mm.
And so I wonder how that was for people that saw that intro, because I'm not sure it quite had enough information for people that had never played the game before. But at the same time, it was still emotionally resonant enough to get me interested. But again, I had already played the first game,
Yeah.
um, and it was nice. It was nice feeling control of Joel again for the short moment that we had it, in kind of that sweeping shot going into Jackson. Um, but overall, I thought it was a great scene.
Nice. Yeah, no,
Can we also comment of how gorgeous it was?
oh,
Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
exactly,
So beautiful.
exactly.
And I agree too. I don't think it is. I don't think it is standalone.
standalone.
Oh, good Nico. So yeah, I guess my thoughts on it very similar to everyone there. So and also some other Josh in the chat says I felt it was the perfect way of picking up where they left off simultaneously. So I think it's when it opens, it's like okay, they are going to address this because at first, seeing the trailers, we knew roughly some stuff that was going to happen, but at no point did they talk about that part of The Last of Us and if that was actually going to be addressed. So I think you can kind of see where they're going from there. And also Tommy's one of my favorite characters, so shout out Tommy. But no, I thought it was fantastic. Cool. No, that's awesome. Anyone got anything they want to say about that particular section before we move on? Anything else?
I feel like Joel bringing Tommy in to help him also, because like eventually, like, cause not everybody can know about her immunity. So having Joel have an ally in Tommy also, so it could help him, because some people need to know to help out. I like how he chose Tommy, his brother, because I mean they have had issues, they had a falling out, and it also kind of repairs that relationship a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I
100%.
completely agree with that. That's what I was going to say if you didn't mention it, is they had a very rocky past. After the outbreak, they were thick as thieves and did some terrible things together. And there was a falling out between them that led them to literally going across the country away from each other. That's how bad it was.
Mm.
It was much like, Troy Baker and his voice acting friend. I forget his name. He's a really small voice actor that nobody knows.
No,
They had to
Nolan. I think his name is Nolan.
they had to part
Never heard
ways
of him.
because of creative differences.
Yeah, because it was ruining their
And
friendship.
exactly. Um, And so for him to bring Tommy in on that, I thought was a huge character moment, and it really showed how much and how much softer Joel had become after the first game.
He's a very different
Yeah.
Joel in this one.
Yeah,
Ellie definitely
Yeah, which I like.
humanized him more and brought back his humanity.
100%.
Oh, and some other Josh in the chat here. I love it. That was such a great quote. I'll take this secret to the grave. Goosebumps.
Yes.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh.
That was so good.
I'll take
Oh, I'm
the
getting
secret to
chills.
the
I'm getting
grave.
chills. Alrighty, well, no, I think so it sounds like everyone agreed. What a fantastic opening. That's great. Now, the next few bullet points, we might cover off a few of them just to make it a little bit easier. So, we're going to cover off obviously riding to Jackson with Ellie and Joel. Ellie departs on her patrol with Dina in that fantastic snowball scene. And probably Ellie and Dina getting high, real high. And then Jesse walking in on them. So they're sort of the story beats that we'll sort of be covering off. So we might start with Nano first for this one. So how do you feel about those scenes, Nano? Any sort of stand out to you in particular?
I think this is what I was hoping would happen at first. Just like them having happy moments, and it just showing like it's peaceful. They are finally having a good life in this hellhole of a world.
Mm.
And, like they are still able, they still have the clicker threat, but but they can be kids. Not kids, but teenagers messing around, smoking pot, hiding away. So it's like it just shows like they're still human and going through the normal teenage stuff of like dating troubles, smoking pot, uh, but still have some responsibilities
Mm.
and gaining the trust of the adults by slowly doing more. Like it showed Ellie really pushing that she can do stuff without Joel and gaining that trust from everybody else. Like saying, "Hey, yes, I'm a teenager, but I can still handle my own pretty well." And it's people being cautiously optimistic. So it was like kind of getting a good glimpse at that world about there's still some normalcy.
Yeah. They're kids. They don't get to be kids. They grew up in this super crappy, crappy world that forces them all to grow up very fast, but that teenage children-esque pops out, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I'm not gonna lie, I would watch that CW show, the 4 years that they lived in Jackson,
CW.
where it's all about the kids.
All the drama. Oh god.
Oh, I love it, buddy.
I have to say, I'm kind of frustrated at the beginning of the game that I feel like Naughty Dog is assuming that everybody watched, what was it, at E3 where they showed the barn scene?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I was glad they included it in the game, but I didn't think they would because they talked about it so much at the beginning, but I felt like they assumed everybody had watched that.
And I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
That entire time.
I was very like, and I didn't even remember what all happened. I just remembered the kiss, and it was just like, I didn't remember anything else because I had a media blackout for this game, and so I didn't go rewatch everything. So that kind of frustrated me.
And also, how impactful would it have been if they hadn't actually showed it at E3, but they still played it when they did in the
Yes,
game?
yes.
Yeah.
I agree that they never should have given that scene up. I feel like that whole thing would have been much more impactful had they not shown that scene off because it happens so late in the game and narratively the way it happens, like I guarantee people who never saw that got more enjoyment out of it than us sitting there waiting for it to happen.
Yep,
Like
agreed.
to show it.
How do we feel about obviously Joel and Ellie talking about the different patrols and obviously her wanting to have a bit more responsibility and obviously Joel still being very protective of her? Did that sort of come through for everyone else? How did everyone sort of feel about that?
I felt like he kind of, I don't know if the right word, compartmentalized her into like the Sarah role of Sarah died at such a young age that he feels Ellie is always going to be that age.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was worse for Ellie than it would have been for Sarah if Sarah had survived because he had already been through that loss. So
Yep.
the
Yeah.
last thing he wanted to think about was losing her, and it really was to a detriment to their relationship, which at times felt a little forced, but I think overall came through pretty well.
Mm. Yeah, and I think for the most part they did a really good job of that.
Hmm.
Mm.
I think one of the big things that people tend to forget about this game is that these kids never grew up with normal life. Like this isn't The Walking Dead where the infection happened like a year or two ago. This is, almost 2 decades after the initial infection at this point.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because Joel's in his 50s, they said, right? He's in his
yeah.
Something
50s.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, and it happened when he was like early 30s.
Yeah.
Mm. Cool. And now we go on to our first scene playing as Abby. So
Oh wait,
I got
did
something to
Nano
say.
get to speak on any of that?
Oh, sorry, no. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think I liked how it just gave more context. Like it showed us immediately that there is a rocky relationship between them,
Mm.
which sucks because you ended it with like kind of like some suspicion on Ellie thinking that ended the first game on some suspicion that Ellie thought that that doesn't sound right, but sure, I'll go along with it. Then hopping back into this world, hoping to see this relationship continue to flourish and grow. Then it's just Joel being overprotective and Ellie just being a rebellious teen, trying to say, "Screw you, Dad. I'm able to do this," but also we know that there's more tension to what there is. So it's like it felt a little jarring.
Mm. Yeah. No, exactly. Sweet. And anyone else got anything to say before we move on to the next bullet point? Story B.
No.
No, no.
Sweet.
I
So
did.
here,
I will say that if we're grouping the scene together with them getting high, like I actually liked that relationship scene quite a bit, where they didn't go too far. They didn't take their clothes off or anything. They just implied that things happened, which I thought was a really tasteful way to do that scene. Which will come across something later that I feel
Yeah.
is a lot less tasteful.
Oh god,
Um,
it's just
Hmm.
freaking
and absolutely unnecessary,
unnecessary.
but
Unnecessary.
we'll get there. We'll
and
get
I
there.
will say too, that scene and the snowball fight scene is a great way to get to know Dina as well. We get to know her very quickly, which is good. As Naughty Dog
My
are fantastic at building people up.
my wife thought that the snowball scene was one of the greatest ways to introduce you to the shooting mechanics, like the controls of aiming and dodging and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Because it's just
awesome.
this cute little playful scene, and it is just such a great introductory into how some of the mechanics work, as
Mm.
well as showing you that they have built this kid-friendly community with people that care.
There were so many kids. It
Mm.
was like this little paradise. I kind of liked it, and
Mm.
I liked that there was all these stands for like the food, and it was pretty cute. I liked it.
I
Mm.
I will say that if you can kind of break the immersion if you go into some of the alleyways and you see kind of how undressed and barren some of the alleyways are because they wanted you to focus on where you were walking. You weren't supposed to go off track, but at the same time, for a game that has so many great little details, it can be a little jarring if you're an explorative person who
Mm.
likes to see if there's a secret in every nook and cranny.
Which I do.
Um,
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I definitely checked out those alleyways.
Uh, it took me a long time to finish this game because I kept doing that and backtracking and trying to make sure.
You got to get those upgrades, Biff.
Seriously.
I think it also does a good job of actually showing you how someone like Joel could potentially become a little complacent after spending a lot of time in Jackson as well, with the snowball and sort of walking around town and just seeing everyone. It's like almost like everyday life, but obviously outside is a very different story.
Hmm.
Mm. Cool. Anything else anyone else wants to talk about?
Not in that
Those
section. I
No.
scenes?
think I think I'm good.
Cool. So here we go. Here we go. So we get our very first scene with Abby. So Phil, start us off here, buddy.
Um, so I think starting with Abby or letting you play as Abby that early was a huge detriment to the way the narrative plays out. Just because for me it set up this expectation that I was gonna be playing as Abby more frequently. And it also gave me kind of insight when you hear their dialogue and you hear that they're after somebody. Like, it's that kind of, again, going back to The Walking Dead. It's like that fishbowl effect where somehow all of these people, even though this story spans states or whatever, somehow they keep running into each other over and over and over. And so when you hear her start talking about the fact that they're looking for somebody, it's almost instantaneous that you're like, oh, they're here for Joel.
100%.
They're here to kill Joel.
But you
I
could
thought
tell
they were
that.
here for Abby. Not Abby, for Ellie.
Ooh.
Sure, yeah. But I feel like they said that they were looking for him.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so it totally that instantly made me think that they were looking for Joel. And yeah, so narratively, I thought it was a little bit jarring because later in the game, as we'll talk about, you suddenly go into playing solely as Ellie for a long period of time. But for me, it set up this expectation that I was going to be going back and forth in the narrative
Yeah.
between Abby and Ellie, and like each chapter was going to change back and forth, and that didn't end up being the way it played out. The
I
sequence
would have
as a
liked it
whole,
better.
yeah, me too. The sequence as a whole was not great. It was a little slow with how everything has been slow. Um, to continue with that pacing, I thought it could have used maybe a sequence to kind of ramp it up a little bit, which we didn't end up getting until a little bit later when we play as Abby. Um, but I mean, overall, it was a decent introduction to the character and why they were there. I just thought it was just a little bit jarring, the way it was implemented in comparison to the rest of the game.
Mm.
I
And
felt it
then,
was clunky a little.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely some clunk there.
I will say that there's something we'll talk about here in a bit that on a second playthrough when I went back into that sequence, I thought it was really cool that since we're already in spoiler territory, when you look over the edge with Abby, you hear her breath get tighter because she's afraid of heights. There's a story sequence where you find out she's afraid of heights. And even in those beginning sequences, like if you look over the edge of the mountain and stuff, she'll be like,
Yeah, that was cool. Like, yeah,
Mm.
Yeah.
in the screen pulls back a little bit and narrows at the same
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And it was a neat thing to see it and notice it more as the fact I was introduced to that.
Mm. Nice. And Nano, what did you think, buddy?
I didn't mind this part, but I also had to actively look for spoilers because I'm a mod for Kind of Funny,
Oh,
and
nice.
so I had to know
Oh,
what the spoilers were
Oh,
just so I could be on the lookout for them.
yeah.
And I immediately knew, like, oh no, so the spoilers were partially real.
Yeah.
This is where it begins. So that it kind of ruined it for me a little bit because I was hoping that certain parts weren't real, like what's about to happen, but still, it was a little jarring. But it was good to have that excitement back from going against clickers near the end of this segment,
Mm.
and just hopping right back into the scary part of the world.
Nice. Cool. And Beth, what did you think?
I was confused. I had no clue who the heck she was because I had media blackout, and I was like, "What? Why am I playing
Lucky.
this random chick? What's going on?" Yeah, I was very confused. I got a little frustrated with uh, because they had so many different routes you could take with Abby, getting to like the end point of her, but there was nothing there. So that frustrated me because like the completionist and searching every little corner, there were so many corners, but there was no fulfillment and like
No.
that good feeling of finding something of like, yeah, I found something cool. That
Hmm.
frustrated me. And it felt very clunky playing as her, but I guess that was the point because she's this big chick, and when you listen to her run, she's louder than Ellie when Ellie runs, and she's just this like beast of like, yeah. But it was just I was very confused,
Mm.
just very confused.
Real quick, one thing that I thought was hilarious when I first heard her run, I've been playing a lot of Predator Hunting Grounds, and I swear to God,
Yes,
her running reminded me of the Predator from Predator
Ah,
Hunting
yes.
Grounds.
nice.
She's very heavy-footed, and the way she runs even like looks like the movie of the like Predator in the movie.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. I did not think that's where this spoiler cast was going. That's awesome.
I do have one question. Do you guys think that sequence would have played out better if we played it from like Joel's perspective and didn't get introduced to Abby until the sequence?
100%.
Like if you found her during the scene where she's
sequence.
getting rushed by the zombies and you're trying to help or you're trying to help Joel and Tommy like survive in this sequence. Um, if you were playing it from like Joel's perspective up until the point when the thing happens, do you think that would have been better narratively than playing as her in that sequence?
No, I think it would be even more jarring if we were playing as Joel and then we come across this girl and then all hell breaks loose. I think we need to have some sort of setup saying, this is who this person is. We kind of walk in their shoes and realize that they're out for somebody and have that realization instead. And this is like my issue with the story overall, where you do learn their motivations later on, and it kind of feels like a forced realization, even though we knew it the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
If you thought about it a little bit, even at this beginning part, you kind of realize like what is going on, and it's more jarring. But I think it would have been even more forced if we didn't see her at all until that moment.
I would think I would have been more confused if we didn't see her at all.
Yeah.
Though, weirdly enough, after talking to Josh late December, I think as a whole, this should have been the third game total in The Last of Us. I think there should have been, the second one should have been the same timeline as the first game, but it's Abby's story. And told, like, disjointedly to where it flashes to the nowadays a little bit with her building herself up and all of that, but they don't explain her motivation really very well until the end, and then throw the bomb on us of what her motivation is, of why she wants to do all of this. I think it would have, I don't know, gone over better. And not
Imagine the
had
hype
to
leading
fight.
into the third game, if that was the case.
God,
That would be
yes.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could have done like the movie, well, not the movie, the TV show that's going to be happening. They could have like showed during like, oh god, just it's so many words and feelings. I'm just trying to like
Yeah.
find like an elegant way of saying the second game should have been about Abby. We would have felt more for her. They could have developed her as good of a character as Ellie, as Joel.
So
Yeah.
one quick thing. What imagine if you had not been introduced to Abby, you were playing as Joel, you meet Abby in this hectic situation, you save her, you go back to their place, and you like sit down, you have dinner with them, you talk about different things, and they get to know each other, and you start picking up on these clues like they're looking for somebody, they're searching, they're from this area. Where did they come from before that? Oh, they were from here. And then it starts to like click in Joel's brain of like, oh,
Shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a way they could have written that without introducing Abby in that way. I feel like could have felt more organic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because I think meeting her along the way could feel like meeting the two kids that you meet in the first game, where you meet them and then you kind of introduce to their story, and then of course they end up getting bitten. And things happen. But yeah, I feel like there's a way you could have written that without introducing Abby in that way. And then I don't know. I don't know if it would have felt better that way or not. But I don't know. I think there was an interesting way they could have done that.
I do like the idea of them just having a second game, or even like a Lost Legacy style game that could have been all the jumping ahead a little bit, but all like the flashbacks for Abby
Yeah.
with her history and leading up, and we're possibly even marketing that game. That could have been, here is this girl. It's supposed to be a separate story, which it is to a degree. But then throughout playing that game, you slowly learn that, oh no, she was This is somebody who was directly affected by Joel, and she says, I'm not stopping until I get him. And that's where that ended. That would have made this game so much better. Just like having us play as her a lot more beforehand and learning her motivations as a separate small tie-in game instead of having this jarring, confusing moment that happens.
I think something that would work really well with that is in tandem is the pacing for the overall game, which is one of the biggest
Hmm.
critiques. Is we have to go back and forth between all these historical moments to build Abby's character. But if there was a separate game that could have built up her character beforehand, then I think that would have really helped in the pacing of this game for sure.
And not just that, because the amount of anger we all felt at that pivotal moment, it kind of overshadowed a lot after that. To where I feel like if they had introduced her as her in the own game as own little like, hey, well this takes place in the same world. It kind of has a little bit of tie-in to the other game, but we just want to tell the other tales of the freaking corticosteroid, so whatever the freaking virus is called. Like this, like
Is it cordyceps?
Yeah.
yeah, cordyceps. And then yeah, throw the bomb of oh, this is tied in a lot more, and have that like moment.
Yeah.
It would have going into this game would have been just, I think, perfect.
Mm.
Yeah,
Because
because I think one of the big problems is I never really ended up caring much for the Abby side characters. Like I ended up caring
yeah,
for Abby quite a bit, but the side characters around her, like Owen, Manny, and stuff like that, I never really got enough time with them to care about them that much.
This is the scene that
Hmm.
I like the least in the entire game. Like we don't know these characters, but I kind of feel like they feel like we get that Mel's pregnant reveal, where I feel like that would have hit way harder later on. It would have been a real gut punch, but like so we knew from the get go that Mel was pregnant, and when it comes up with her and Owen later, like it's like well we kind of knew that
Yeah.
already.
yeah,
And I feel like I mean, Naughty Dog have a history of doing this, obviously, with, young Nathan Drake, with Ellie in the first game, like playing as someone a little bit different, which I like, but I feel like they just did it for the sake of doing it at this portion of the game so early. And I kind of agree with you, Phil. I think if we had it where it was just a bit more of a build up to that moment, but we didn't have to play as her, and there was that reveal, that turn, I think that would have been way more impactful. And same with you, Beth. I feel like that would have been incredible, obviously, if they did a game building up to this and we either just meet Joel or it's just that death scene or something like that. The hype and the build up would have been great, but I feel like it's just too rushed. And this particular scene, I didn't really care for her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Mm. So any other points or anything else anyone wants to say about that first time playing as Abby?
No.
No. Cool. So
I like
now
the pregnant pause, you know?
you gotta have the pregnant pause. And now for obviously we're gonna encompass the whole Joel and Tommy warehouse scene, Joel's murder, kind of just wrap this all into this one particular moment. So first off, who's next? I think it's Beth, right?
Why don't you start on this one, Ben?
Yeah, you
You got
start.
me too?
Hmm.
Whew. I mean, I actually really liked this. Like, so I feel like it would have been better had we had that build up of and having that surprise of not knowing what was coming. I feel that did take a little bit of away from it. I kind of agree with Phil where if we had just met her in the warehouse, we built up this connection, but over time, both of them are sort of figuring out, hey, actually, this is this other person. Could have been a whole lot better, but I feel like the actual moment when obviously Ellie runs in the room, actually finds Joel on the floor there, and everything going around there. I thought it was extremely well done from my side of things. I thought it was really good. Obviously, pretty heartbreaking seeing Joel die so early, but I had kind of expected that something like that was going to go in. I mean, this is the world of The Last of Us, so I thought it was a big surprise and a shock and almost a twist that none of them died in the first game. Um, so to have it happen so early, I actually quite liked it. I know a lot of people didn't like it; it was quite divisive, but I thought just the acting in general in that portion of the game was incredible. And hearing some of the some of the behind the scenes stuff with obviously Neil and Laura and Troy and Ashley, just what went into that scene. I thought that was remarkable, that particular point in the game. So that's my thoughts there. But yeah, if you all want to chime in, let me know what
I
you think.
agree on the acting. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was. I felt like I was in her shoes, in Ellie's shoes, when she
Yeah.
just popped in and all of this was happening. It's just like I stopped breathing. at that point. Like, oh God, you took this journey with like Joel's not a good guy, but you took this journey and you're attached, and it felt just all my emotions were just in this swirl, and I felt like I had to take a step back after that moment of like, what do I do now? I need to reflect on this, and
I love Joel's reaction too, just not giving them anything.
Yeah, all I have to say about this is, why don't you say whatever speech you've got rehearsed? And then she's like, you don't get to rush this. And that's,
Yeah.
oh fuck.
Oh, chills.
My one thought on this is it went on too long with the actual murder part,
Yeah.
and I felt like this was a very much like the Negan scene in The Walking Dead, where Negan just beats two guys mercilessly, and you see all of it, and it sets the tone, I think, well for the game, where like this is how bloody it's going to be. But again, it felt a little sickening to me.
it was so graphic. It was
Yeah.
so graphic.
It was too graphic, in my opinion.
I actually don't think it was as graphic as it could have been. There were definitely like, it was more implied violence. It was more like, if you think of Pulp Fiction and the scene where the kid in the back seat gets shot in the back of the head, or in the head, and the blood spatter in the back windshield. You never actually see the kid get shot. You just see the blood spatter, and there's a lot of implied violence there, and it's definitely a grotesque, violent scene. But I feel like that's kind of how they played the violence in this sequence. Like, you didn't necessarily see the golf club like enter Joel's head. There was just a
Thank
lot
God.
of implied beating and violence. A lot of that stuff like had quick cutaways to Ellie's face, and I still think it was emotionally draining, and the violence really felt impactful, and it was over the top and probably too much. But I was happy that they didn't like you were saying in the Negan scene, they didn't show like the bat hitting the face and the eye popping out and stuff like that, you know?
But you still see the carnage afterward.
Right,
Where
right.
she blew out his knee though, and you see the tendons
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
ligaments actually holding his leg together. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh God.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's never
Yeah,
walking again.
100%.
Cool.
Yeah,
Shit.
he's never doing anything again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Shout out to the entire cast, like especially in this scene.
Yeah,
Like,
Laura Bailey coming in as like the rookie on the team. Obviously, she herself is the most veteran of veterans, but like a rookie in this team in particular, and to just bring the heat like she did, with everyone else just bringing their A game, and yeah, it was very, very emotional.
and
Mm-hmm.
Ashley Johnson, what a performance there. Eh? I mean, all of them were
Yeah.
amazing, but like I said, just them holding her back and just her reaction, just yeah, incredible.
I was so confused. I thought as soon as they knocked Tommy out, and why weren't they killing everybody else? It just frustrated and confused me, and then it clicked for me of, oh, okay, they just want this one thing. They're not
Yeah.
ruthless. They're horrible and ruthless, but they're not, without.
Which is funny we compare it to Ellie and Joel, who they murdered everyone they came across. No ifs, ands, or buts. It only came to named characters they showed some mercy towards. And it's still
Yes.
playing towards that trope here, where it's any Naughty Dog game. You go on a merciless killing spree no matter who you play, unless they have a name.
So
Then it's more thought out and meticulous.
that is one thing that is always very interesting. They play it narratively, like you're sneaking past all these people, but hardly any of the players are playing it that way. Most of the players are going to be tripping over themselves, killing the people that they have to, killing them on purpose. Hardly anybody's
Or
going to be
trying to
trying to
be-
do like a no-kill run.
Trying to be stealthy, but then get caught, then murder everybody.
Right, exactly. So yeah, you end up killing a lot of people, and so yeah, narratively they don't play it like that, and that does feel really weird.
It feels untruthful to the player.
Right, and yeah, it definitely makes Ellie and Joel feel much more like monsters than like Abby at least at this point in the game, because eventually, obviously, you take control of Abby and become the same monster. Um, and
But that's also like not really true because with Abby, she is still also pretty meticulous with her killing. It seems like,
yeah,
at least when I played it, it seemed like she thought about what she did. While with Ellie, it was a murderous rampage.
yeah, it is very different because you're like physically choking them, and you see the emotions on her face, you see the emotions on the person's face, and definitely there's that impactful kind of feeling when you're killing somebody as Abby versus killing somebody as Ellie for sure.
And this is also where we find out that Tommy is actually Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. This is the very start of that. So, shout out to Tommy.
Seriously.
Um, but yeah, I totally agree that it felt weird for them not to kill Tommy and Ellie, because they're loose ends. You know,
Yeah.
you went state over states to kill these people, and you're just going to leave the two witnesses who can track you down alive.
Mm-hmm.
It felt very strange, and of course they did it out of compassion narratively, which they kind of say that like, oh, why didn't they kill you? Which I'm glad they addressed it, and I'm glad they tried to create some sort of narrative bridge, because I always hate it in like John Wick, for example. I love that movie to death, but there's the sequence when he gets hit by the SUV. Spoilers, by the way. And they tie him up and question him when they could have just ended it right there in the street and not had a John Wick problem anymore.
Mm.
Um, and I always hate that when they just give them plot armor.
I feel like they did it just for the emotional resonance of having them all in the same room for that scene, which is definitely, I think, worth it. But like you said, it kind of paints them into a bit
Yeah,
of a corner when, like, so they obviously can't kill the other two for story reasons because they need to go on and do their thing. So no,
right,
I agree,
It
exactly.
buddy.
reminded me of Kill Bill when she kills the mom.
And
Yes.
then
And
doesn't
then
kill
she
the
talks to
daughter.
the daughter, and she tells her if there comes a point where you ever want to get your revenge, she's like, you have your revenge. It felt very much like that, but they didn't explain it as well, in my opinion.
I'm honestly, she's old enough now. I'm hoping Quentin's writing that movie right now.
Well, I heard that they already are making next Kill Bill. That there was
Oh,
something. Yeah, they're. I heard that there was a new Kill Bill, Kill Bill 3.
interesting. Okay.
Nice. And anyone else got anything to say about that one big scene? Obviously, we can touch on it later if it relates to anything else. But anyone got anything else to say about it? About the big death
I was
scene?
very angry.
Yeah, a lot of anger. A lot of
And I
anger.
felt betrayed by Scott
All the
because
emotions.
I met Scott Lowe 2 years ago at PAX West, and we had like over an hour-long conversation about this. And he actually gave me a dev pen, the Firefly on a stop sign pin, because I freaking loved the game so much. And I was like, oh well, they're not gonna kill Joel because it would piss off everybody. It would be a really cheap shot. Like I think this is gonna happen. I think like they focus on the cult so much, like in the trailer and everything, that it might be Ellie's mom or Joel's ex-wife. I mean, nobody really talks about them. They're presumed dead, but nobody really saw the bodies or talked about it. And I was like, I went off for an hour, and he's sitting there smiling at me. I felt so betrayed.
And here I
Oh
thought
my
that
god, I
Scott Lowe
felt
was
so
I thought he was a
betrayed.
nice person. Turns out he's a
He was
monster.
so nice, and he's here just talking with me, and freaking, I just like after that happened, I was like, you son of a.
I definitely felt the same way. I walked into the other room after that scene, and I looked at my wife, and I'm like, the next time I play as Abby, I'm gonna let her die. Just gonna let her die over and
Oh, I
over.
did so much. I did so much,
And
and I
then,
cheered every time.
so for me, I was under that impression that we were gonna be going back and forth as Abby. So I was ready to like be Abby again, like in an hour after being Ellie. And then when that never came, it opened up some different feelings as we kind of gotten into, because I had time to kind of process what had happened, and the emotional resonance didn't necessarily wear off, but I started to kind of rationalize the fact that Joel was indeed a monster, and he had this coming. If it wasn't Abby, it was probably going to be somebody else.
Mm.
And so I had like 10 hours to sit there and kind of cool down, I guess. But like after that moment, like I was like, dude, the next time I control Abby, I'm gonna let her get mauled by the infected. I'm gonna let her get shot. I don't even care.
I didn't expect to play as her again. I did not see that coming at all. All I could think of was, I'm Ellie. I'm gonna hunt this girl down. I'm gonna slaughter her. I'm gonna kill every single person. I was so upset. I was just like, I know Joel's not a good person. They talked about it. I wish that there was, I don't know. I hope that the TV show shows it. Him and Tommy not being good, because they used to use the same ploy from that first game that he said with the fake hurt person and the truck and all. They did that. They were bad, and they only mentioned it a couple of times in the first game. And we need to like remember that Joel and Tommy were very, very bad people. They killed innocent people all the time.
On behalf of the Fireflies too.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely love if they gave a little bit more prior to meeting Ellie sequences in the show for sure.
Yes.
And Abby's original backstory was actually meant to be that she, it was just Tommy and Joel would come across her and they were doing some unsavory things, not that she was actually the daughter of the doctor that you killed. That was the original one
Yeah,
there. And
yeah. For
if I put my conspiracy theory hat on as well, I mean, obviously there was that big leak, and that sequence you play as Abby, just going into that real briefly, wasn't very long, and so obviously people had known at that point that you do play as this other person. I almost wonder if they went back and added that just so it would throw people off. Oh, okay, so you only play it for like 5 minutes and that's it, and then it makes the big half point turn a lot more impactful. I wonder if they'd done that.
Very much so.
So that's my conspiracy theory anyway. But no, so any more on that scene? You good?
Not for me.
No.
No.
Sweet. So next off, and it's probably won't need to take too long on this one, but I think it's definitely worth mentioning, is just obviously exploring Joel's house, talking to Tommy, having that initial conversation where you say that you're going to get revenge, go after them, and Tommy obviously says, look, give me some time. I think he mentions obviously just give me a day. Obviously him then taking off himself to go after them, but just the exploring the house scene, the scenes with Tommy and Dina. So who hasn't gone? I think we're back to Beth now, right? Beth, if you want to kick us off on this one.
It was emotional for me going through his house. I think I might have cried on stream. It was just sitting back and realizing, oh God, he's gone. He's gone. I'm never going to play him again. Are they going to do flashbacks? I don't know. I didn't know what to think at that point, because like I took a little few minute break after that scene of like when he died, but I was streaming it all, so I was like, okay, well I have to continue on kind of thing, and I don't feel like I really had time to process it, so I felt very numb through the whole thing of going through his house, and it was just, oh God, I felt numb and sad, and I was angry, just angry.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that Ellie would grab his coat and wear his coat for the rest of the game.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Oh,
What a
yeah.
missed opportunity. Naughty dog.
Yeah,
If you need someone else on the writing team.
I felt like that was a big thing. I mean, Katniss did that. Katniss did that when her dad died. She wore his coat. And I felt like this was just, it would have been really just something.
Yeah, that definitely would have resonated for sure.
Josh agrees with you in the chat there.
Yeah, it was definitely cramming my heart into a paper shredder for sure. God.
Yeah. Tough
It's
scene.
hard to remember back in that scene and remember all the details of the house because I felt so numb afterward. I wasn't processing really what I should have been processing, and I have put off my second playthrough because it took me so long to emotionally get back into games after that game because it shredded me, especially
Takes it
during
out
this
of you.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt exhausted. So, I'm going to platinum it. I am. I have I have my list of what I need to do to platinum. I'm just dreading that moment of getting back into and feeling all the emotions again.
Yeah. And shout out to Shannon too in this scene, because Dina does, she's so good with Ellie in the scene, and she kills it. It's Shannon Woodward, right?
Love her as an actress, and I love the mocap girl who did what was it? Who they chose, and like, oh.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic. 100%. And what about everyone else?
You want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I definitely enjoyed that sequence from kind of a resolution perspective because it was nice to see how much people love Joel. And you imagine that he really tried to atone for his sins and did a lot of good because he had so many people leaving memoriams and flowers and stuff at his house. And it really emotionally resonated with me because I as well, like, I really ended up loving Joel, even though I can also rationalize that he indeed was a monster and may or may not have done the right thing. In that moment, for his character, he did the right thing, and to me, that emotionally resonated. So after that sequence of events, I was able to empathize with what had happened and was really happy to see that he had tried to atone for his sins and really help this town enough for all of them to really love him.
Mm,
They all did too. I forgot about the
mm.
flowers and the memoriam. Oh my god.
Well said. Yeah, 100% agree with that. And what?
I didn't. I didn't mind this scene. I was just ready to move on and just go on that rampage to get
Yeah,
revenge. I was ready to get out there, so
you want to
I kind of
revenge,
blew
buddy.
through this.
Yeah, it gave me a chance to really process what had just happened, So I enjoyed that downtime right there. But I totally also understand wanting to go kill every mother effer.
He wanted payback.
I've got a switchblade and it's going in your neck.
And anything else, Nano? Anything else you want to add to that particular moment?
Wait, is it a switchblade or a butterfly knife? Real
No.
quick.
No, it's a switchblade.
Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a switchblade.
Okay.
Cool.
Just make sure.
Butterfly
Sweet.
knife would have a different handle.
Right, and she would have like flicked it open and stuff more in animations. Yeah. Okay.
Can we just say I'm really annoyed that frickin' Ellie just didn't grab like a Bowie knife or something? Why doesn't she have a knife? She's this
Wait, Abby.
badass
You mean
soldier.
Abby?
Abby, yes, sorry, Abby. She's this badass soldier from like
Yeah.
this military complexy type place, and she doesn't have a knife?
The worst part is there's even some of the guards that they show, for the location for the wolves have K-bars and stuff, and it's like, why doesn't she have a knife? Like,
Yeah.
what? I mean, I get that you want to show how strong she is and that she can break people's necks with her bare arms and she can smash people's heads against walls, but at the same time, like, there are times where I don't want to have to build a shiv, okay?
Yeah.
I hated that being back. People were happy that ships were back, but why? It was
Yeah.
so great not having one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
And
feel
then,
like such a
they
badass.
break opening a door. I was just like, she's so big and huge. Can't she just run through the door?
Well,
Just punch the
Like,
door open.
To play for 10 hours with Ellie and then to suddenly have this handicap of needing a shiv to deal with flickers was just disappointing.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Now the next scenes we're going to be talking about. So this is coming up, obviously
Wait,
playing
Ben,
as.
what about
Oh, yeah,
you?
sorry.
What
I
about
just
you?
honestly just agree with absolutely everyone in regards to that comment, and I think you said it really well, Phil. In regards to it really shows what Joel actually means to this town. That he's, like I say, he's kind of a very different Joel. I think it does a good job of showing that, how much time has passed, what he's been doing since then. I think it gives us that closure on that character, like I say, that we kind of need before heading out and getting revenge, getting payback. No, I agree.
Was he buried with his watch?
Oh,
What happened to his
Um,
I
watch?
think
I thought
does
she
Ellie get
took
it?
it.
Yeah,
Does she have it?
I think it's in
I
the
thought
box that she. I
so.
think she
I
takes it
thought
out
she
of the
grabbed
box.
it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
You
because
can,
don't we
Because
see it later on?
well, I wonder if it's
Yeah.
it might be missable, is it? Because I know you pick up that box, don't you? And it's in the box on the near the in the
Well,
bedroom.
I thought she shows it up during the end parts. Like she has the broken watch still with the guitar.
Oh yeah, yep, yep.
Okay, as long as he wasn't buried with it, actually still is somewhere for someone. Because
Yeah.
Sarah! Oh, by
Still
the
one
way,
of the best sequences in video games.
I didn't know that was going to happen because when I played the first game, I didn't know. I had no clue. I restarted that game 3 times thinking I messed up somewhere along the way because she died. And so I had to relive it 3 times.
I was going to say you had to
And so-
relive that.
Yes,
Again
three
and
times
again?
until I
I
finally
am
looked
so
it up.
sorry you put yourself through
No.
that.
I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh god,
That's
oh
rough.
god. Yes.
Yeah,
I've never.
thankfully, I also went into that game blind, not knowing what I was getting into. Because again, even though I liked the theme of the game, I wasn't a huge fan of Naughty Dog games, so I didn't, watch every trailer for it or anything. I just knew what the content was and was like, I'm gonna enjoy this game of what um, because of the genre. And so I went into it completely blind as well, not knowing who she was or what was going to happen and why I was playing as her. So yeah, that definitely caught me off guard as well. I think even now, even with how little time we had with her, I still think that scene resonated more with me than even maybe Joel dying. I don't even know. Um, I mean, I think they're pretty even on in terms of emotional resonance with me because I spent so much time with Joel. But for how little time we spent with Sarah, I thought it was amazing what they were able to accomplish.
Oh yeah, the voice acting
Hmm.
of her when her voice cracks when she's crying.
Oh, that like
Happy.
yelp that she makes at the
Yeah.
very
Yeah, and
end.
there's so many like little animations too when you're playing as her. Like when she's cold walking down the stairs, you can see it on her face, and she kind of shivers, and
Yep.
like the way she like acts surprised when something blows up outside of the house or when the cop car goes by. Like there's just so many little details crammed into that small short sequence.
Drugs, hardcore drugs.
And that kind of leads into, I guess, especially later on, I was going to talk about it, but I mean, with that Abby piece later on, that's why I kind of felt it went on way too long. I mean, Naughty Dog is so good at building up characters really quickly and making you care about them. I feel like we didn't need 15 hours with Abby later on, but I guess we'll cover that off later. But that scene in particular shows how good they are at sort of creating characters and building them up so quickly that you care about. I feel like they didn't need that long with her to be able to. I feel like they felt like they had to make it worthwhile, but I kind of feel like it would have been almost as impactful as shortening it and making it a really.
Jumping jumping ahead really quick, based on what you're talking about, is the sequences with her where she's reliving the moment of discovering her father dead. Like as much as it illustrated how her post-traumatic stress over the incident and how much it affected her narrative and why she became the person that she was, I did think there were a little too many of those sequences. Like I feel like we could have either shortened them or cut them back because we see that same hallway so many times between her and Ellie.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like they were throwing it in our face a lot of like, be empathetic
Yeah.
towards
Right,
her. And it was
exactly,
so
exactly.
much that it was
Yeah.
making it have an opposite effect of just.
Now the next scenes we're going to cover off is pretty much everything from.
Just a heads up, I
Oh, sorry.
do need to head out soon,
That's all good, buddy.
like 10 minutes.
Sweet, buddy. That's all good. You just let us know when you need to, and we'll just all good. I see we're going on a little bit long. It's such a big game.
To
Yeah,
be
it is.
fair, like we have a lot to say. I'm so sorry.
So the next one we're going to group in is pretty much Ellie and Dina's journey, pretty much right up until the point that we switch as Ellie. So just some reminding or some points to remember. So we've obviously got things like the Take On Me scene. We've got obviously the interrogation with Nora, obviously where we see obviously her sort of reflecting what Joel's done in the past. We've got obviously the Jesse reveal in Seattle. And yeah, a few other bits and pieces there. So that's some of the things there. So, Nano, do you want to kick us off, buddy, if you're going soon? What are your sort of thoughts on the whole alley sequence in Seattle?
I love the part when it opened up and you were able to explore.
Yeah.
I wish there was a lot more to this where you got a random map, you marked it up, and you went and explored. I thought that was the best part of this game, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
I
And
wish they would have gone more Silent Hill with it, where yeah, like everything you do marked the map up more. I would have loved that.
it just felt so wasted. Sorry, Macbeth. If you want to add some stuff about this too before I go on.
I just kept getting lost. Without like a proper markup of the map, I kept getting lost and like retracing my steps. And I was like, oh, I've already been here. Crap.
Yeah, I felt like this was a waste opportunity just having it once in the game with just a giant map and you get to explore the area. I wish they had it in just more parts of the game. Just try and add more open world elements, let you explore more, and not let you have a taste of open worldness and go right back to linearity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But other than
there
that,
was definitely a sequence where I was exploring and there was a ledge that I totally thought I could get back up from,
Yep.
and I dropped down and it locked me into that area, and I literally just stopped the game and restarted at a previous save because I was like, I wasn't done exploring. And yeah, those sequences
I hate
definitely hurt.
those.
By the bank, right?
I think it was
That's where it
the
happened to me.
coffee shop
It happened
is
to
where
me
it
Okay,
at,
happened to
me
yeah.
at
me.
the bank too. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get to explore the bank because I thought I could get back up. It looked like I could get back up.
Now
Yeah,
for you, Nino, before you go, because I want to make sure you get a chance to talk about the game as a whole too. Obviously, just we'll talk about ours later. But what are your sort of general overall thoughts of the game now that you can talk completely spoiler free? You can
I
spoiler free.
thought it was fun to a degree, but again, I thought the senseless killing was too much with them touting there was more enemies around and more areas that it led to just more dragged out fights, especially later on when you're Abby in the compounds later on in the game, especially at the last chapter of it. Not Abby, but Ellie in the last chapter, going on another killing spree, murdering 40, 50 people at once. Even though they were bad people, it just felt too much. Same for Abby in the what is it? The Colts town, where like they're defending their town, but then they're also hunting you down, and you still are just taking people out left and right for no particular reason. So again, it was fun. It was just too much murder and senseless violence that pulled me out of it, and I felt like the ending was a little unwarranted, to say the least.
Yeah. Cool.
And they could have easily cut out a chapter here and there to slim it down, make it more refined than what we got.
Nice.
Instead of like a 20 or 30-hour game, they could have probably nailed it down to like a 15 to 18-hour game easy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice, buddy.
Because again, it just felt like it overstayed its welcome more than once.
Go off now, Nano. Get all those thoughts out there. We want all of them.
All of those hot takes, buddy. Come
All
on.
the hot takes. Just pour
Again,
them out right now.
I just felt like it overstayed its welcome too much.
Yeah.
And there was like numerous times where you're just like wandering around talking to people. I wanted to explore and learn more, but I was also playing with my girlfriend who just wanted the story to move on, get on with the game. So, which might have ruined my opinion a little bit, but still, it just felt like it was just oversaturated with stuff.
Yeah. And obviously
And that's really about
we'll
it.
go through our opinions shortly, but honestly, I think we all echo that same sentiment for the most part from talking to both of you. So I don't think you're going to be alone there. But you can you just jump off when you're ready to, buddy. I don't want to keep you if you want to go now. If you want to go later.
I'll head out now.
But
So thank you guys for having me.
Seriously,
This was a lot
thank
of
you so
fun.
much for coming on, buddy. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely going a lot longer than I originally anticipated. But
Sorry.
I knew it was going to drag. No, it's The Last of Us 2. There's a few of us, and this is such a long game and so much to decompress. I knew it was going to take a while, which
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with.
Nice. And seriously, thank you for coming on, buddy. And where can people find you
course.
again?
You can find me at twitch.tv/thenanobiologist or twitter.com/da nanobiologist.
You are killing it, buddy, and the content's fantastic. And they can also
well,
find
thank you so much.
on Kind of Funny Games Daily most of the time as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think
Yes.
you're like
The
staple there.
embodiment of the actually meme. So
yeah, the you're wrong section for sure.
yeah. Well, you guys have a great time. And thanks again for the invite.
Love you, buddy. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for coming
absolutely.
in.
This has been wonderful.
Have a good one, guys.
Awesome.
Bye, Chad.
I'm having a great time. This is great.
Oh, yeah. I'm enjoying this thoroughly.
So you've got the Nora scene. We've got just a reminder take on me scene. All the stuff here. So I guess maybe the take on me scene. How did this hit for you, Beth?
I'm going to be dancing to that for my wedding song. So
Oh,
Nice.
that's awesome.
legit. But I have a question though. Has the song that Joel sang, "Future Days," has that already happened, or does that happen afterward? Because I'm definitely mixed up with all of the flashbacks.
Well, there's a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards, and so we can definitely
Yeah.
talk about that too. I think we definitely lumped that in here as well.
Oh my god, I cried so hard. It was just the emotion that Troy Baker put into that song. And even he did a live Instagram thing like a month or two ago after this came out, and he was just doing music and singing and playing on his guitar, and he started playing this and he couldn't finish. He broke down. He's like, it
Oh.
put me right back to where I was filming this and doing this. And he's like, there's so many emotions and so many feelings. He's like, I can't finish the song. And it was just like, oh, dude. I, and then also the tweet that they had about, God, was it Neil that tweeted about like, hey, let's put in a Pearl Jam song? No, why would nobody was gonna get that? Nobody's gonna like this. And then it was like, oh, hey, look, you're wrong. Everybody freaking loves
Yeah.
Well,
this.
yeah.
And
So what happened is there was the live performance that they did, and that was like the song that they chose for it. Um, and then it just carried over into they made it into a scene for this game. Because
so
originally,
good.
yeah, it didn't make the cut for the first game. And I love that Neil had like a response because people said, "Oh, but wait, that song didn't exist before Outbreak Day," and he was like, "No, it actually premiered on YouTube
Yeah.
very shortly before Outbreak Day." And I love that they did enough research to think about that,
You can tell Joel was a Pearl Jam fan,
Oh yeah, for
right?
You can tell.
sure. And it cracks
100%.
me up that they sang a Pearl Jam song and then they went to Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Slightly off tack there, but obviously when you play it at your wedding, I take it you're doing the Last of Us cover for
Oh
the
yeah,
song.
definitely.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had it actually on Spotify for like a couple of days, and then they removed Ashley Johnson's, like they removed it because it was from
No.
a podcast.
Hmm.
Evidently, somebody had put it on their podcast, and Spotify removed it. And I've yet to find it on there. I found other covers, but they are not as good, and it's frustrating me because the way she hits those notes, oh, oh,
We'll have to get on that.
God, it's so good. I
That's awesome.
love it. It's beautiful, and I did not expect that song. An '80s, it's '80s, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I already loved that song, and I love all covers of it. And it's just like I immediately started singing along, and it was she was. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. And
Yeah.
she sings it for Dina. That's the thing, is she's sharing something that Joel taught her from his era, because obviously they had many, guitar lessons, and he was teaching her his songs and all these other things. But she shared that piece of Joel with Dina. She opened up that part, and it was so beautiful, and it really,
So
like, you can see
impactful,
it
eh?
on, yeah, you can see it on Dina's face of just like, oh.
And
Yeah,
we definitely needed a moment like that in between all the, as you would say, all the stabby stab. Um, um, but no, I love that moment so much between those two. It's so well done, and one of the game's best moments. And it's nice to have those quieter times in between all the
Mhm.
stabby stab.
yeah.
One thing
Shannon Woodward killed it as Dina. Just want to
Yeah,
throw
oh
that out
god,
there real quick.
yes.
100%.
I had one complaint as Dina though, when she was playing as like the Ellie part in like the first original game, where she's like ducking and covering and like stabbing when she needs to stab. She kept the character, like, kept getting in my way, and I couldn't get around her, or she would get me caught because she would be seen, and so I
I
had major issues with her in like gameplay wise.
I
Mm.
actually really enjoyed that they cut those sequences back because, yeah, it would always take me out of Last of Us 1 when one of the AI characters would just like walk in front of a clicker, but the clicker would be like, hard darbitor.
Yeah.
Um, and, uh, just not even respond to what was happening.
Yeah. Hey, Josh says here, we'll get someone to perform live at the wedding. So let's start hashtag get Ashley
What?
Johnson to Beth's wedding.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I'm already gonna invite like Snowbike Mike and Greg and everybody. It's like, you guys gotta come, and all of you guys. Like, trust me, you're
Uh,
all getting invites.
can I Skype from the Shire? Can I be on video chat?
Yeah, sure. We'll
Awesome.
set up like a Zoom meeting or something.
So it sounds like we all really love that scene, and obviously, I think it's going to be go up there as one of the greatest, obviously, probably
It's
scenes in general of any game. It's so good.
it's really interesting because I wasn't sure after Joel's death scene. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about seeing him, or even if we were going to see him. Like I figured we would be, but there's never a guarantee. Um, but yeah, after that, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the sequences with him, if they were going to, make me love or hate what I was playing more, and it actually helped me keep going. I kept kind of almost fighting to see those moments of tenderness and happiness um, between those two characters. It's kind of what drove me to keep murdering people.
Mm.
Yeah, it was those little quiet moments basically
Yeah.
that they would throw in a little bit of a
Mm.
respite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you would get a breather between all the stabby McStabbies.
right.
Absolutely.
So much stabbing.
Now the interrogation scene. So I might actually start with this one here. Um, so I guess at this point it's kind of for me this is kind of a turning point for Ellie, or it's almost
Mm.
like, hey, look how far. And that's what the game is also going for. Is like at what point does this obsession, does this addiction go too far? And I forget this is one sort of the very first points of the game where you see her do this and trying to do this, and you sort of struggle with it as a player watching. You can tell Ellie's struggling with it, but it's obviously mirroring what Joel and Tommy have done. Obviously in the last game, we know obviously Joel did that during obviously when he was trying to find Ellie, and she knows for the most part she knows some of what they did during those days when they were sort of traveling together trying to survive. Um, so yeah, it's obviously hit me pretty hard because, like I said, just once again so well acted, and obviously Dina as well. Her reaction to seeing what Ellie's doing and what she's becoming, I thought hit pretty hard for me. How about you both?
Did you wait while she was torturing Nora and interrogating her? Did you wait and like hopefully you would get the choice of not beating her senseless? Because
Yep.
I waited for a really long time and I'm like, okay, when's the choice gonna go away? What's gonna happen? And I was like, oh God, you're gonna make me do this. You're gonna make
Yep.
me do this. And
There's a
then at
lot
the
of them
same
in this
time,
game.
I was like, okay, she's killed so many people, very gratuitous, like very oh God, bloody and excessively, but she has a problem beating one. The girl's already gonna die, but she has a problem all of a sudden beating her.
Mm.
Well, this
Like,
goes back to my conversation about like how the narrative treats the character versus how you play the character. Because you're right, yeah, it's like she's hasn't been stabbing people in the neck for the past, you know, 4 hours or whatever, shooting them in the face with a silenced pistol with a bottle on the tip of it, exploding people's faces, with guns and stuff. Like it's like she hasn't been doing any of that.
Mm.
It's narratively, it's like she's been sneaking through all these encounters.
Yeah.
really
Nice.
good point.
But yeah, to us as the player, it hits differently depending on how you look at it because we see the character as we're playing it. So she's killing all these people, and then all of a sudden she's squeamish about beating this girl for information.
Mm.
So yeah, it can definitely feel weird, but yeah, narratively they definitely treat it as if you're sneaking through every encounter, I feel like.
Mm.
I feel like in that moment also she became Joel.
Yeah.
Like it was a
Yeah,
decision point for her of, am I really going to become him or not? Because he did all of that, and
right.
she made the choice. She became Joel. She stepped into his shoes.
So powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's definitely something that is way different. Because they're trying to like humanize and create empathy for Abby, while on the flip side, they're trying to almost demonize Ellie. It feels like, and
Yeah.
make her this monster. Because yeah, the girl in the hospital, like we don't even know if she's really ever killed anybody. She seems to be somebody. I mean, other than being part of what happens to Joel. Um, but all we really ever see her do is, play with medical supplies, and she's supposed to be a really skilled, or one of the skilled, doctors. One of her father's students, actually, Abby's father's students. So she's there to save lives, essentially. So I can't imagine. Oh no, wait, no, sorry, she's not one of the doctors. It's
I thought that was
the
Mel.
pregnant girl. Yeah, Mel is the
Yeah.
Yeah.
doctor. But still, we
But I
see
mean, she's
her,
working in the hospital. She's
Mm.
she.
yeah, and we don't really see her as someone who's like out there murdering people. We see her, moving medical supplies and doing things to help the community that she's in, not murder people. So yeah, it definitely, even in the sequence when you're chasing her, she doesn't really turn back and kill you. I think there's one sequence where she might, but most of the time it's her trying to run away from you and get other people to kill you. So it just gives her this weird sense of helplessness, and I feel like they're just trying to emphasize the fact that Ellie's going down this really dark path and that she's a monster.
Mm.
I like that they started off though with every time that she's forced to kill somebody by them retaliating back or doing something like the girl with the PS Vita. She probably wasn't going to kill that girl, but she pushed her past that that choice. She was
Yeah.
forced into that choice. So,
And
but like
again, I feel like
Ellie's
that
reaction
falls,
every single time was just like,
yeah. And again, I feel like that falls into that narrative where, like, had you snuck past all those enemies and then got to that sequence where you had to kill her, it would have been very different emotionally.
Mm.
oh yeah,
Oh, some other Josh, you're really going to go through with this kiddo.
I know,
I
some poor
felt back to that
kiddo.
scene in that trailer too. I was like, oh, that first was it the first trailer or the second trailer? I thought
I
back to
think
that
that
scene where Joel's talking to Ellie and she's playing the guitar with
yeah,
that.
the first one.
Oh man, yeah, it was super impactful and yeah,
Way
great
to
moment.
go, kiddo.
Now I don't know if it happens around here, but obviously there's that kick-ass scene where Dina saves Ellie. I think it was either just before or just after this. I'm a little bit blurry, but that was awesome. Where she comes in and pretty much saves Ellie from that person that has her pretty much cornered, pinned in. That was
Oh yeah,
awesome.
yeah. The TV tower.
Yeah,
That's before the hospital, and yeah, essentially you're kind of caught by the enemy, and they're trying to get information out of you
yeah,
as to how many people there are. And at least it makes sense why she's alive in this sequence because they literally are trying to get information.
yeah.
And yeah, it was a really great show of strength for Dina's character to come in there and take them out, even though it didn't work out quite as well. Which when those things happen like that, especially when they're not like covert ops trained military people, they're these people that have just been trying to grow up and live their lives, and yeah, they've been taught combat tactics, but it's not quite like the wolves who seem to be more like militarized.
Mm,
So it was nice to see that kind of like stumble with her where they shoot the glass and she falls through because it makes it feel like more real, more sloppy.
mm,
But it was definitely a cool show of strength
mm.
to see her save Ellie like that.
And the other thing that's happening during this time is obviously we're getting Dina, starting out during the journey, very different Dina as we sort of start to see going forward, where she's a bit more withdrawn. We obviously know something's going on, and obviously we get the reveal that obviously she's pregnant.
I
Um,
thought she was infected or pregnant, one or the other.
yeah,
Like the way she was acting, I was like, okay, well, her and Ellie slept together. Did she infect her in a different way? Like, oh
There's
God.
mm,
there's some like notes in her journal or something that say that she can't infect people because she had like a kissing session with uh another girl, like the girl that gave her the tattoo.
Yeah.
And she talks about how, oh, it's been a few days now and nothing's happened, so I guess it's safe to say I can't infect other people or something like that.
oh, I
So they
missed
do
that.
Which I
answer
find
that.
very confusing for me at least. Like, she should be able to infect other people. The way this
Yeah,
looks like it
Mm,
works.
yeah, the way that they describe what's happening to her, how the infection kind of stops or whatever, definitely feels like she's an asymptomatic carrier, not like
Yes.
an immuno like suppressed. I don't know. It's definitely interesting.
mm,
But to that point, um, for Dina, yeah, there's a sequence just before she pukes, I think, for the first time, where it looks like she could have, like, she gets attacked by an infected, and oh, it's the gas mask sequence,
mm,
Mm-hmm.
where you're running in the subway and your gas mask breaks and you're kind of she's coming to the grips with what's going on and the infected are coming, and there's a sequence where like she's getting attacked and you've got to save her while all these infected are coming, and I thought, oh shit, she got bit right there,
mm,
and that's why she was sick and puking. And then as time went on and she showed that she didn't have any bite marks or scratches or anything, I was like, oh, something else is at play here. And then when she started feeling ill again, I was like, oh, is she going to be pregnant? Like, did Jesse get her pregnant?
yeah.
That's going to be a weird relationship thing.
Mm-hmm. I was
Um,
angry at her for not being honest as soon as she found out. That made me
Mm,
so upset because she put all of them at risk because of that. It was a very selfish choice.
mm.
100%.
But I feel like selfishness is kind of the theme of the entire
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
God, I think that was my main
Revenge.
problem with it. Is I try really hard not to be a selfish person, and I'm not a revengey person. I'm not. So I found it very, very hard through the game to really feel empathetic towards Ellie and Abby, like just both of them. Of just like, you're both terrible people. You both deserve all of what happens right now.
100%. Now, I don't know exactly where, once again, this happens. It's all very back and forward, back and forward. But obviously, we get the reveal that Jesse has arrived in Seattle. And obviously, I think the main reason I sort of wanted to include this is because obviously this is the big leading into the game. We obviously had this as Joel in this scene. And obviously the switch to Jesse. So how did you both sort of feel about that?
It scared the crap out of me when he showed up, and then I had to remember who the heck he was because they only showed him for the very beginning tiny
Yeah.
bit, and I was so focused on everything else. I was like, "Who are you?" Oh, it's that dude.
Well, like you said, we didn't get
And
that bar scene, which I feel like
yeah,
you get to know him way more than the other scene that we have him with. So
exactly. And it had been how many years since that barn scene had premiered, and with the media blackout, like I didn't remember him at all, like at all. But I love Jesse. I love him.
yeah, he's cool. He's a great character.
So yeah, I mean, they kind of played up to be Tommy during those sequences. That's the whole
Yeah,
reason you're going that direction is because you think Tommy's in trouble. And then so when you get grabbed, I was like, oh, Tommy found you before
that's
they
what I
found
thought
you.
too. Yeah,
And then I turn around and it's Jesse, and I'm like, oh.
yeah,
But it ended up being a really cool kind of wrench in what was going on, especially with him finding out that Dina was pregnant. I thought that was a really cool kind of thing because all of a sudden his only care is, well, she's bearing my child, like I have to save her, we have to get her out of here, sort of like switch. So automatically he's like, I have to help Ellie get this done because we need to get Dina back to Jackson as soon as possible.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And for the most part, I actually love this chase sequence in the car, but I feel like it went a little bit overkill to the point
Oh,
where I was like, how do they have all these resources? Like, this is an
that
apocalypse.
that gave me flashbacks to the first game, like things I didn't like about the first game, or when they got super gamey.
Yeah,
Um, and that was one of those sequences where like all of a sudden I go from really resource managing my pistol ammo to all of a sudden having infinite pistol
Yep.
ammo.
yeah,
The fridge
And
as
it,
a counterweight scene in the first one.
yeah, exactly. And it just felt really weird and jarring and totally pulled me out of the immersion for that sequence. I much rather would have had that be like a sequence where you get to the truck and then it's just a cutscene.
yeah.
Um, because yeah, just having infinite ammo and everything took me out of it more than helping me feel like I was really in that situation.
Mm.
A very cliche game
Yeah.
sequence.
Hmm. Which I was happy to see weren't nearly as prevalent in this game
Mm.
True.
versus the first one. Like I was talking to Ben the other night, like the things that really bothered me were like the turrets, the armored cars and stuff in the first game just felt so weird and out of place in this universe where ammo is supposed to be scarce. And I know they're like a military organization, but it still just felt really weird. Like you're not gonna just waste hundreds of rounds in this armored vehicle at these two people. I don't know. Anyway, not relevant to what we're talking about, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering where they get all the ammo, and are they making the ammo? And like, because you can collect the shells, but like, who knows how to make black
Mm.
powder? How do you mix it correctly? How do you get all the supplies for it?
And I think
Did
it's
they
that's
cool. We
go
see
cool.
some
down and
of
make
that
the?
later, which is cool at the
Yeah,
That
stadium, but obviously not all of that.
but
that's a
not
whole nother
everybody
conversation
has
because ammo doesn't last forever either.
exactly like
Um,
the black powder goes bad.
Now
like
the
I
other,
think it would have been interesting to see like bullets misfire and stuff more often because yeah, you're talking about 2 decades after, the last firearm was manufactured.
yeah,
And again, that was another gamey thing that I hope they fix in games like this in the future, where the enemies seemingly have like as many rounds as they need, but once you kill them, they have 0 to 2.
Yeah, that. Like I can see them they have arrows on their body. They are archers. They are
Yeah,
fire. Like, why can't I pick up the arrows that I can clearly see?
clearly
Or
see.
they were
Yeah,
shooting me. Where's their gun now?
100%.
Now, there's two more
Why is
points I
their
want
gun
to cover
suddenly
off.
empty?
Two more points I want to cover off before we move on from Ellie's portion of that first portion of the game. One being the museum, and one being obviously that Joel sequence where there's the back and forth between her and Joel, where she does eventually find out, but 100% certainty that yes, this is what happened at the end of the first game. So, which one
Which
would you
went
like to
back
start with?
Utah.
Yep,
Uh, well, we can start with something nice and happy of the museum scene.
museum scene.
Yeah, I felt like it threw me out of the game by going into it. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and it was like this nice little happy moment, but I felt like it was so jarring to what I was just doing that I was like, what the hell? What's going on?
And I
Yeah,
think that falls into this game and why people think that it has some pacing issues. Because yeah, I love that sequence. That was, I mean, honestly, one of my favorite sequences in a narrative-driven video game. Going through that with this character that I love, or these two characters that I love, and going through this really fun experience with them, with the dinosaurs, and especially as a little kid, like most little kids just love dinosaurs and this idea of these gigantic creatures that used to roam the earth, and so it was just a lot of fun to, see that T-Rex and see Ellie's reaction and going into the space symposium and seeing the rocket, and then getting into it, and then having the light play off the helmet that she had, and the sound effects of the launch going off as she was imagining it all happening in her head.
I
I
loved
thought all
that.
of that was just beautifully done, masterfully done. But
yeah.
I definitely agree that pacing wise, it definitely felt weird. And I get it. They were trying to, like, high intensity, then draw you back down, and high intensity and draw you back down. But it still definitely feels weird in comparison to the main story that's going on and what's happening. And I didn't really draw like a parallel necessarily as to why she was having that flashback all of a sudden. It felt more like we were suddenly thrown into that
Mm-hmm.
sequence. And I know it's kind of her processing everything and going through her memories with Joel, but it's still, I wish that there were, and maybe I missed it, but I wish there were like indicators, like maybe she finds a dinosaur book or something, and suddenly,
A trigger.
yeah, some sort of trigger that triggers that sequence of events in her head. Absolutely.
Kids love dinosaurs, dude. Yeah. And shout out to
Can
the
also
designers
retake
because
a.
I ran for that dinosaur immediately. I'm like, I want to slide down this thing. I want to
Oh my
jump on
God.
it.
I was so happy when that happened organically and
Yeah.
worked.
I didn't think it was going to let me, but that's immediately where I ran up to. I'm like, I want to climb up this
Yep.
dinosaur. I'm like, oh, it's letting
Yep.
me.
Didn't even occur to me that I could do that either, or put the
Oh,
hat on Joel. None of that occurred
I
to
never
me.
did the head on Joel.
Yeah, that's a trophy, evidently.
Yep.
Oh, I
No,
need to go
I,
back and
I
do
did
that.
it on all the dinosaurs, but I never tried to put it on Joel.
Can we just take a shout out though for Shimmer and a moment of silence for Shimmer?
Oh,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, like, with the way that game presented, again, similar to you, like media blackout, like I tried not to watch too much about it, or if I watched it, I only watched it once. Um, I thought this horse was going to be with us for like the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now, and they're like, choose your horse. This horse is gonna be with you for the rest of the game. And I'm like, you guys are gonna like kill this horse at the end in the story, aren't you? Like
I
I'm
see
gonna
what
get to
you're
the
doing.
very end of this game, and you're gonna kill this horse on me, aren't you?
Hmm.
Because throughout this entire game, I'm like, Sora, come, horse, like, oh no, don't kill this horse, please. But yeah, when Shimmer died in The Last of Us 2, I kind of wish for emotional resonance we would have had a little bit more time with Shimmer before that happened. But I understand why they needed to put that restriction in place and why they needed to do it when they did it. But I would have loved to have a little bit more time before that happened because I feel like it would have resonated a little bit more. But
I
yeah, it
jumped
was still
so high, dude.
devastating.
I
It
was
was
so.
still devastating.
That
Yeah,
was
I
out of
jumped
nowhere.
too.
It was so scary.
I thought we
Yeah.
were gonna be able to go back to like its body and like they would have like a little a prompt or something of like she could like pet the
Pet.
horse's head and
Yeah.
say thank you and then we could move on.
But that
But
would
no,
break me.
Nope. Nah, fuck that horse. That's what they said.
Well, the game is meant to break us. It's broken us everywhere else.
Yeah, really, that's true.
I love that museum
There's
scene. All in all, it's yeah. That one got me. That was probably one of my favorite moments between those
there's
two.
a sequence we're gonna talk about soon where Ellie does something truly horrible and worse than anything she's done in the game thus far. And I think that this scene would have been a little bit more impactful if we had that Abby alternating between Ellie and Abby. But we'll get into that soon, I
Mm,
think.
yeah, yeah, cool. So I think we all like that scene. That's great. And what about the obviously Ellie? Obviously a little bit more around that Ellie sort of finding out what's happened, and I personally kind of like the way they did it, where she kind of comes to the realization herself, but she just wants Joel to admit it. And obviously that turn though, where he does finally admit it, and
Mm,
just the acting from those two. I just thought they absolutely brought it. What about you two? What do you think?
100%.
Oh, I knew this was coming for the
Yeah.
relationship wholeheartedly. I mean, she suspected immediately when she was laying in the back of that truck. She was just like, "This doesn't
Yeah,
add up."
from the first game. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that she's
it
actually
didn't add up.
writing, and she's writing about it in
Yeah.
the journal as well. When you read that, like how
Yeah.
things don't quite
You-
make sense.
You're telling me the truth. You're not lying to me. You're not lying to me. You're not
Yeah,
lying to me. You're not lying to me.
She gave him
yeah,
so many
Okay.
times to tell the truth, and
yeah,
he was just
Right.
destroying her trust every single
yeah.
time. And it's just like,
And I love
met
so
people
much
like
that
that
it
in my
wasn't that
life.
cliche. Like, you know how you're watching a TV show and you know it always happens this way where someone lies to someone and then they only find out because someone else tells them and it becomes a big thing. But like I say, I love that she came to the realization herself. Like at the back of her mind, she's always known, but she's been
Yeah.
too afraid to outright ask him until this
She
point.
flat
Well,
out went
she
down
didn't
there
really.
by
Yeah,
herself too.
exactly.
Yeah,
I was about to say
Like
she didn't really come to the realization. She motherfucking found out.
yeah,
she went from Wyoming back to Utah all by herself, and it's just like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. But you know what I mean? Like she knew that she should investigate that because she knew that something wasn't quite right. If you know what I
yep,
mean?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The whole her being the cure, I took them like, oh, we have to cut into her. We've only known for a couple hours. We're not actually going to study her or anything like a proper doctor and a proper scientist. No,
Yeah.
just after a couple hours, let's just cut into her brain. She's the only one who's actually immune, but let's just kill her right now.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. We
Ugh.
don't we don't want to test her blood and see because I mean
Mm-hmm.
obviously if she can't give the disease to other people, then there's something more than just her brain. It's something in her blood. Like you should be doing blood tests. And
Yep.
obviously they ran a bunch of tests. They did something, but we don't necessarily see that. And on top of that, like they didn't even get her consent. She just like knocked out
Yeah.
and like gonna
They kept her
open her
under.
up. Like
Mm.
you're telling me that she doesn't at least deserve the choice? Like come on. That's monstrous in and on its own. And I know that the doctor himself wasn't necessarily a part of that, but he still accepted it. He still
Mm.
was complicit in it. He didn't go, "No, we need to ask her if this is what she wants." Like
He
just
was
because
so gung
your
ho.
daughter, yeah, just because your daughter is like, "Yeah, if it was me, do it." Like that doesn't mean that that's what Ellie would have wanted. Now, later on in the story, we find out that she, you know, has a problem with her life not meaning anything, and that would have made her life mean something, and
I think that
whatnot.
falls right
So,
back on her best friend dying because they had that pact they were going to die together.
Yeah.
I think
100%,
that comes back
100%.
right to her.
Mm.
And she wanted
Left
her
behind,
death to mean something.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she wanted her death to mean something because she didn't get to die with her. And
Yep.
that's what it is. It's
Mm.
not like. And I hate that she doesn't ever voice that. That
Yeah.
bothers me.
Yeah.
She thinks it, but she never voiced that I needed her death to mean something, not just my own.
Yeah, it's interesting too because she's never really talked about that. She's obviously talked about being bitten, but like other than Left Behind, I don't know if she's ever opened up to anybody about that.
I think
Mm.
she says it once that basically we made the pack, and like when she was explaining it, and then she never talks about her again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Riley.
Yeah.
And I like that we do get some discourse, especially I guess we'll talk about it later, but because we're kind of bringing it up now, but between Marlene and the Doctor, because she's fantastic, and I like that we do get a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more of that, but it wasn't too just thrown in there. But there is that dynamic and that argument between those two. So we actually see that obviously she was so torn in regards to that decision. Like, so it was still a little bit strange that they were so time bound to get this to happen and they couldn't try and see if there were other ways around it. But I do
That
like that she actually kind of fought for Ellie and that she had to come to that realization where shit, if we want to actually make this happen, it's the only way. But yeah,
he never answered her. He
No.
never answered her it would be okay if it was Abby.
Yep. Yep. So I thought that was pretty powerful, but I guess that's probably a little bit later too as well. Yeah, but I guess before we move on to the actual turn to Abby, which we're going to talk about soon, the sort of the mid-game almost split. Is there anything that we might have missed from Ellie's point of view in Seattle, or anything that we're missing in general up until this point?
I'm
Oh,
loving the playing cards that they're collecting.
Oh yeah,
yeah, oh my
The
God.
comic
what's
cards.
what's the Neil
I
Druckmann one
really,
called?
Dr. Uckman.
That's so good. That's so
It's
good.
literally Druckmann, Dr. Uckman.
Uh-huh.
Um, but no, I absolutely want their next game to be like this weird superhero world and just become something completely different than what they're normally used to doing as like a palate cleanser to all this like, narrative stuff. Like just go
Mm.
have fun. Go have
I
fun.
think the
Go.
team need that.
They obviously spent a bunch of time creating backstories to all these characters and everything. So yeah, I absolutely think it'd be great if they did something a little bit lighter and more fun and just made this weird superhero world.
Mm. Yeah.
uh,
And Beth, anything that we might have missed leading up to the Abby switch?
um, I
I
didn't
mean,
see it coming.
obviously there's the huge controversy of the drop off when you get back to the theater and um, things happen and Jesse just done
Oh,
right off the
Let's
bat.
let's
Like,
talk about it. Let's go to that scene.
oof,
that was
oof,
so heartbreaking and so fast.
Yeah.
So
just
fast. I was just like,
done.
no!
It's
Yeah.
so impactful the way they did that. How quick it happened. And you knew immediately he was gone. Like there was
And
no question about
like
it.
obviously it couldn't have been Ellie because then that would have just been the end. But like the idea that it could have been just if it was just a little
Yeah.
bit to the left, or right
Yeah.
or whatever.
And this is now also
um,
where we find out that Tommy is still Bruce Willis from Unbreakable.
right.
God.
Now, what
I think he was originally supposed to die, and they wrote him alive as like an afterthought. I don't
I
think he
don't
was meant to live there.
see, I disagree because if you look at what happens to him, he gets shot in the side of the face. And I really think they wanted to take this character that everyone loved and they didn't necessarily want to kill him like they did Joel. Because otherwise, I think they would have. They're not afraid to do that. I think they wanted to show a transformation. They wanted to show him broken as a man because of what he decided to do. The actions that he decided to take led to this moment that led to him not being invincible, that led to him not being able to avenge his brother, that led him to losing his wife, that led him to becoming crippled for the rest of his life, not having vision in that eye, not being able to walk properly anymore. Like, I feel like they wanted to show him broken like that.
Mm.
Um, and show this change in him that, bad things can happen. And maybe revenge isn't the greatest idea.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think it definitely makes her a really powerful and probably one of my favorite moments of the game later on at the farm, which we'll talk about with Tommy. But we'll get to that later, because he's one of my absolute favorite characters. But yeah, super powerful scene with her and Abby at this point.
Felt bad for
Um,
Tommy's wife.
oh, dude.
Oh God, yeah.
She's just
Yeah,
like watching all of this happen, and she's just having to send everybody off. She's like, okay,
yeah,
can you go do this thing?
Yeah, Tommy already snuck out, so can you go keep an eye on him, please? I know
yeah,
you might die, but please, I want my husband back.
yeah.
Wait, maybe I don't want my husband back. Oh God, this was worse than I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
I like how he just tells Ellie, "Oh, she'll be fine. She'll be all right with it. We've done it before." Like, but obviously there's that point at which, we'll talk about later, I guess. But yeah, that's. Whew.
One last thing
He's
about Ellie is I absolutely love her journal. I
yeah,
love her
Yes,
journal.
100%.
That,
And
God,
I
it
wish
made.
Abby would have had something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the first pieces of paper that she picks up, she just throws it on the ground like it means
Yep,
nothing. I was just like,
yep.
I want to collect these things. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's very, and I think again that shows how similar, but also how different, and how parallel these two characters are.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm. Oh, and some other Josh, that line, yeah, we let you live, man, so well
Yeah,
delivered too by Laura Bailey. Yeah, what a scene.
you wasted it. We let you live, and you wasted it.
Yeah,
That was so good, So
It just
good.
frustrated me that she couldn't understand why Ellie was so upset. You did the same thing that Joel did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as she knew, Joel didn't have a daughter necessarily. He just knew that he brought Ellie to this place. So in theory, like maybe she thought that this other person that witnessed his death didn't matter as much, even though she knew that he was the or she was the girl. Maybe to
Mm.
her, maybe it didn't matter quite as much because it wasn't that father-daughter connection, or she didn't think that it was a father-daughter connection. She thought maybe Ellie was just a package, essentially, that
Mm.
he tagged along.
I think she,
But
yeah,
who
she's
knows?
just so wrapped up in her own little
Yeah.
selfishness.
I
Revenge,
think that's
yeah,
Yeah,
it.
that
She doesn't care, I don't think, at that point. No.
no,
right.
she. Ugh,
Yeah. Now, are we ready? Are we ready for
I
the
think
next
we're
part?
ready.
You know
Yeah.
what we're doing now. So here is where we get the switch. Like I said, probably almost about halfway through the game. Um, I probably haven't gone first in a little while, but for me, this was super confusing. I didn't know how long we are going to be playing as this character. It's sort of because you start off with a very sort of cinematic, story-driven moment. You're going around. There's the deer scene, which I thought was really well done. But I just figured after that we'd bounce back to Ellie. But it wasn't until probably about half an hour through playing, and you actually see that you've got some stuff that you can level up for Abby, that you're actually picking things up, that you're playing in a more sort of actual game mechanic kind of situation, where I was like, okay, this is obviously going to be a little bit longer. So I thought that was interesting. Um, but also this is where I just kind of had pacing issues with the game. And like I said, they may not be issues per se, but it was more the fact that I just wanted to get back to that scene. I wanted to know exactly what was going to happen and to go from 0 to 100, then right back to just where you kind of began. I kind of felt like for me, it took me a while to get back into actually enjoying the game because it was very jarring for me personally. I felt it sort of got a lot slower. I felt like I didn't really want to be doing this right now, and I just want to know what's happening. I think it was a very interesting choice, and I'm sure they would have tried it a few different ways, and maybe this is still the way that worked best for them to get their point across and the story across. But I don't know. Like I say, maybe if we played as her first, maybe if we mixed it up, like Phil said, had different sections where we're Ellie and then Abby, it might be a little bit interesting as well from a mechanics perspective. But yeah, for me personally, this is where it kind of fell off a little bit, and then I feel like for me personally, it came way back towards the end where I really started to enjoy it a lot more. But I felt like this part was yeah, a little bit probably a
When
little
they
bit divisive for a lot of
introduced
people.
when they
Yeah,
introduced
before
Yara and Len, that's where I started getting
Yep,
back into
yep,
it.
one hundred
Yeah.
percent. Yeah,
Everything else
the
before dragged,
yeah,
dragged,
yeah,
and it's just I felt like, well, for me, her 3 days were almost twice as long if than Ellie's.
yeah,
It just I felt like there was sections that they could have cut out, and at least like 1/3 of it just cut out, and it still would have had the same impact. It just wouldn't have dragged, and I wouldn't have resented it as much.
yeah, one hundred
that's
percent.
kind of what I was going to say when I started talking about the theater scene is before we went off on a tangent is yeah, you're at this extremely high emotional moment, and you're just like anticipating what's going to happen next. And I think Ben, you explained it really well one night when we were talking about it. It's like a TV show that shows you like where the character is. Oh, they're getting out of the water after a car like explodes off of a bridge, and they're covered in dirt, and like maybe they're shot in the arm or whatever, and then they're like 24 hours earlier.
Yeah, I hate that stuff,
Um,
dude. I hate it so much.
and that's really like we're like at this, but it's even worse because we've had the build up to that
Yep,
climax,
yep,
and then all of a sudden we're going 24
yeah,
hours earlier or 3 days earlier,
yeah.
realistically.
And especially
And
as
yeah, man,
as I said earlier,
it's
like
rough.
Naughty Dog are the masters of building up characters and making you care about them very quickly. I just feel like we didn't need as long with Abby. I loved Ellie's storyline. I loved, like I said, especially later on, like I said, when we're getting to the island and all the stuff with Lev and Yara, I absolutely loved that. I even like the stadium stuff, but I feel like there's a lot they could have cut out of that just to make the pacing feel a little bit better. But how about you, Beth?
Oh god, the pacing, it just a bunch of action would happen, and then all of a sudden, nothing, 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 nothing. Okay, why aren't we cutting this out? This is not making me feel for Abby because there's nothing really that's showing her character building or anything like that. And it was just so. Yeah, when I first arrived at the bench to work on her stuff, I was like, I'm not playing for her for that long. Why would I build up any of her stuff? And I just ignored it. And I walked away from the bench. And I was like, oh, God, no, we are really going to. Oh, no, we are really. Why are you making me do this? And I was so resistant against it, and I think it was a detriment to me, honestly, playing the game. I was so resistant against playing Abby that when she would die, I was like, woohoo, okay, cool. What other ways can she die? Can I watch it happen? Because I dislike you so unbelievably much. Oh. And it wasn't until literally when Lev and Yara showed up that her whole character, I was like, you're a bad person, and it's not that you became a bad person. I think you've always been a bad person. That I don't find any part of you redeeming. I know you're having your revenge thingy, but you're holding on to it so unbelievably unhealthily, just so strongly. More so that it reminds me of like when Batman in like some of the like iterations when Batman killed his parents' killer and felt nothing. And it's just like, did you learn at all from any of these past experiences from anybody of how revenge and all of this? Nope, you're just going to be angry, and
Yeah.
Ellie's being angry, and why is everyone so angry?
And that's why I love the Lev stuff so much. And you might have hit, and it sounds like you had that same sort of turning point there too, because she feels that. Like she feels so guilty about what she's done, and now that she's built up for this thing her entire life, and then it's happened, and she just feels it there, and that turning point where she goes back to actually save them. Like that's where I feel like it for me anyway. That's where it sort of really turned around. Were you the same?
I felt like it made no sense that she went back. Uh, she didn't know them, and seemed like she didn't care about anybody but herself, except for even with like Owen and all the others. She cared for them, but not really. Like she always put herself first, and then all of a sudden she was going back to them, but she was acting like it was for some higher reason, but it was just pure guilt. Pure
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah.
That's the only reason she went back for them, and I didn't like her motivation for going back for them. I liked the outcome for sure. They made her a better person, and I started to like her because of it.
Yeah.
But it frustrated me because I didn't like that she had to have these other characters for me to actually like her.
What about you, Phil?
So I completely agree. Basically, that beginning sequence where you first start playing as Abby, like I felt like they were shoving empathy down our throats. Like, oh, pet this dog. Oh, pet this other dog. Throw a ball for this dog. Have a burrito with Manny. Um,
Could that be a game? Have a burrito with Manny.
I loved Manny. Manny was cool.
Manny was awesome. He was definitely
um,
worth.
but yeah, it definitely felt like they were just trying to shove empathy down our throats in that regard, and trying to force us to see things from her perspective, and like her, try and make us like her very early on.
Mm.
But like you said, very early on, you can see that she's very selfish. She hasn't quite come to grips with her feelings about Owen, which her feelings are in my mind like Owen belongs to her. How did she let this little medical girl get a hold of him?
Yeah.
And obviously she does some things that, like, all this character building that they did that made me start to like her, and then they just tear it down with a certain sequence we're going to talk about that I've already
Yep.
alluded to, I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
Frickin' yes.
um,
God.
but but yeah, like Lev is her Joel moment.
Mm.
Um,
Yep.
and like,
Yes.
very similar to how Ellie is the catalyst for change in Joel, Lev is the catalyst for change in Abby. And that, again, like you guys were saying, is really where it starts to resonate, and where I start to forgive her in my own mind space of, you know what, I want Lev to live. I want her to protect Lev.
Yeah.
The difference is, like, we never got to really see Joel be that monster. Like, there's that sequence in the
Yeah.
very beginning of The Last of Us 1 where people like betray him and he's got to kill them, and he doesn't really have any remorse about killing them, but that doesn't necessarily show you how evil it is, he is, or how quote unquote monstrous he is. Whereas for the Abby sequence, we kind of get that backstory as to why she's a monster, and the things that she's done. And obviously the thing that she did is a completely monstrous to those people who are endeared to Joel. And And yeah, so seeing that Lev moment, like it is that turning point of like, wow, I want Lev to live, so I want her to live to protect Lev because she's this mighty wall of a woman that can do it.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's bringing out the best in her.
And also, like you
Um,
said earlier as well, it shows that Abby is actually a real person. Like, so when you're actually traveling with Lev, and there's
yes,
like that height
exactly.
stuff you alluded to earlier, that's that sort of where it hits me a little bit more as well. Where you actually sort of get to know her a little bit more in that sense that hey, look, she does have weaknesses. She is just a human. It does sort of personalize a little bit more. Yeah,
I feel like Naughty Dog did themselves a disservice by not showing us how truly evil and horrible Joel was before.
yeah,
Because we all put him on that pedestal, but we know he was evil and he was not good for a very long time. But they did themselves a disservice to this game, especially because they did that with Abby. But if they did that with Joel, we would feel, I think, very, very differently.
and that's why I think I would have liked that original startup that they talked about, where it was just the fact that they, Tommy and Joel were just drifters. They come across Abby and her family, and they do some unsavory stuff there. Because first of all, then it doesn't, the stuff with Ellie, she doesn't know that she's immune. That really kind of doesn't play into it at all. She just wants revenge after Joel, and we see the brutality of what they did during those years that they were sort of trying to survive. So I thought that would have been cool, but yeah, I agree to a certain, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm muted for just a second, you guys.
That's a good
Okay.
buddy.
Also, I kind of want to think back about we skipped over a little part that was really sweet of when, because it actually will play into our thoughts, I think, on that pivotal scene that we keep mentioning, the unnecessary scene of where Dina is taking care of Ellie when she's all effed up, basically, when she takes
Yeah,
off her shirt and she's nursing her back to health. That was such a beautiful scene, and seeing the vulnerability and Ellie actually breaking down and showing that vulnerability because Ellie doesn't like doing that. Ellie is very kill, kill, kill. I need to
yeah.
do these things, and that was very, very pretty.
I love all those
And
vulnerable
also,
moments with Ellie, especially all the moments
yes,
at the theatre, even walking around. You can kind of see it on her facial expressions, even in the gameplay when you're walking around that theatre.
yes, and it was so tastefully done. Can we just
Mm.
point that out very loudly? It
Yep.
was tastefully done.
I can't wait for this other scene.
God. Also, I'm angry. I got so angry at Ellie when she split off from Jesse because Jesse was like, "I'm going for Tommy to save Tommy," and she split off to do her revenge.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah,
That
Yeah,
upset me
totally lied.
so
yeah,
much. I was so angry at Ellie. I was yelling at the screen. I was like, "You selfish brat. Would Tommy and Joel ever have done that to you? No. You are now becoming the selfishness that I don't want to see in you. You're losing yourself. You're losing that humanity." I was so angry, and like, it was so well written.
yeah. That was awesome. Now, not to spend too much time on these ones during Abby's one, but I think there's a few things we'll just briefly touch on. But first of all, just I guess some of the side characters I'm mainly going to specifically just talk about, probably just more so just Mel and Manny. So I guess first out, shout out to Manny. He's awesome, fantastic character. Really does really help out, especially in like saying those early portions of Abby's journey. Because it just makes it a little bit more fun, a bit more personality. It's one of those nice fun moments actually we don't get too many of in the game. And I guess his death specifically later on, it does definitely make that more impactful and more meaningful. So how did you both feel about Manny?
I thought it was hilarious, and he provided the right point of humor that we needed in those times to
Yep.
distract me from the anger I was feeling.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, Manny is kind of a dick. Like
Oh,
when
totally.
He
in that
is.
sequence, he was the only smart one in that sequence with Joel because he wanted to kill Ellie and Tommy,
Which
but
kind of makes
the
sense though.
Owen, yeah, no, no. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like he's kind of the dick character. He's kind of the one that's like ready to do the dirty business.
Yeah.
And everyone else is like, no, don't do it. But yeah, as far as his character, like, I still feel like I didn't get enough attachment to any of them to really feel like the deaths were meaningful. And at the same time, like, there was still kind of that feeling of like, yeah, I'm glad Tommy got a little bit of that revenge. Like, screw that guy in his face.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, it was kind of sad to see him go
Yeah.
because he was like one of the few characters that was likable.
And
He was
yeah,
the Jesse of Abby's side.
exactly. Yeah. Sensible and
Yeah,
yeah,
out of
funny.
all the characters on Abby's side, I felt like he had the best and most development. I mean, we literally spend the most time with him outside of the rest of of like, you
Yeah.
know, even more so in my mind. I mean, I guess you have the flashback sequences with Owen, which give you a little bit, but I don't like Owen.
We'll get to that.
And I
Yeah. I liked
I
him
don't.
up until a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eh,
Oh.
Um, but
yeah. And I guess as well in regards to Mel, so I'm a huge Ashley Birch fan. She's fantastic, and she kills it in terms of her delivery. But I think that in terms of the writing of the character, I don't like Mel. And maybe
He
it's
fell
that we're not
flat.
meant to. But I also don't really not like her, if that makes sense. I just feel like she's bland. Like
she's there. She's there.
Yeah.
she's there. I feel
I
like it would
think
have
they
been better
wrote
if
her
we
on
actually really
purpose like
didn't like
that.
her. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
I
feel like
think
they could have
they
done a better
yeah.
job of you not liking her, if that makes sense. I just feel like you don't like her, but you also don't not like her. Like she's there,
He's a
like you say.
space filler.
Which is really sad because I think it's kind of a missed opportunity. And like I feel part of that was, early on we actually find out she's pregnant and then we get that hit again later. But I feel like we should either really not like her because of obviously everything going
Mm.
on, which we'll talk about with Owen, or we should actually probably like her and be torn about this whole Owen decision. But I feel like there's a kind of a missed opportunity with maybe the writing and the characters just to actually add a bit more of a dynamic because I really just
Well, I
don't
think
like those
part of that
sections.
comes down to how little time we spend actually with those characters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Because
wish they would
for
have.
as
Oh,
much,
sorry.
I was just gonna say, for as much time as we actually spend with that character, we don't actually spend a lot of time with the characters that we started with, that
yeah.
they really tried to, um, show us in the beginning.
Oh, all the other ones are
Um,
complete filler. I couldn't even tell you their names other than maybe Nora. Like I
I
don't.
I do have to go though, because we're
Oh.
in deep spoiler territory, and someone that hasn't played the game yet is here.
Oh
So
no.
No.
I am out of here.
All
So have
right.
a
Well.
wonderful conversation. I'm gonna love listening to you guys talk about the sequence that we've been
Oh,
alluding
I
to.
want to hear that before you leave, though.
Can you
Oh
give
my
us a? Do you want to
No,
give?
no, I can't. I can't.
Oh
Oh, they're
I
right
no.
literally
there.
can't.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Fair enough, buddy.
So unfortunately, we won't be able to get that one.
That's right.
But anyway, have a wonderful day, you guys.
Thanks for joining us, buddy. And once again, where can people
Absolutely.
follow you, buddy, on Twitter?
At Phil J Woodward on Twitter.
Nice, buddy. Love you. Thank you so much for
All right.
joining us.
Absolutely. Can't wait to hear the rest of the conversation. Have a great day, you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye. Bye.
And then there were two.
Finish
We're being
him.
picked off. We're like we're Abby's crew.
Oh God.
We're all getting picked off.
I think it was very different how they showed Abby's crew, and then how we didn't feel anything for them really every time they would die. And then they started to actually delve into all their characters. But with Mel, I think they needed to show her healing side. I mean, she was a doctor, right? She's training to be a doctor. She's
Yep.
training to be a healer. Like, if they showed more of her humanity that Owen was so desperately trying to get back to and cling to,
Yep.
that it would have made more sense how they ended up together.
Exactly, and also maybe some jealousy, like maybe, for example, with Mel, with the relationship that she had with her father, maybe she was a little bit jealous of the fact that she was like her number one student, and she kind of had this almost like maybe even a better relationship with her father, and she was jealous of that, or I don't know, just
Yep.
something that's just not bland. Like she just feels like she's there, or like say, just tearing that wedge between her and Owen, or if she was actually really likable, so you were actually torn about what you were doing in that scene with Owen later. So, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like they could have definitely shown more of her
yeah.
character, even though just she was so exactly what some of the Josh said. She was very gray and boring.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, should we get into the fun stuff?
Oh god, yes.
Let's just go for it. So, should we talk about all the aquarium stuff and how you fought? Do you want to touch on the little kind of almost, I would call it what was that sequence in the first game called? What was that
With it
character's name
under
with
and
the notes that you go through the tunnel
yes,
system? What's his
with the
name?
whole society that they had down there. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name, but I know exactly what you're talking
What was
about.
his name? It's driving me insane. Chat, if you know, let us
Sure.
know in the chat. It's going to drive me
We'll do
nuts. What was it?
a quick Google search.
What? It
Character
was Ishmael? No, it was
S
Ish. It was Ish, right?
tunnel.
It was Ish's story.
Uh, a flooded tunnel. No. underground tunnel. Tons of infectors, clicker.
I bet Josh knows. Come on, some other Josh. You know it, buddy. Is it Ish? Am I right?
Busted. I think it's something like that. It starts with an A or an E.
Yeah.
Not Elijah, not Eugene. God. That's one.
This is crazy. I can't remember.
Letters.
Ish, Last of Us. Ish. Yep, that's the one. Yep.
Okay.
So I feel like there's obviously a bit that this is the sequence here at the aquarium, where we get that sort of kind of side story. Do you want to touch on that, or do you?
I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved my brain just totally blanked. Oh my god. Oh, the aquarium with the family and
Yeah.
the little boys and how they left to be Seraphites.
Yeah.
God,
I love all the
drawings
Seraphite stuff.
Yes, I think they did themselves a disservice not by killing the leader of them, and just you
Yeah.
find one letter saying, "Oh, Isaac made her a martyr," and it's just
Yeah.
like, wait, what? You guys put so much focus on them in the trailers of this cult and this leader, and like I thought she was gonna be Ellie's mom or Joel's ex-wife or like something cool. And like every letter I found, I was just super fascinated in learning about them. I was like, oh, we're gonna meet her. Like, and then completely let down for me. I was very, very frustrated. But the aquarium, sorry, going back to the aquarium scene stuff. I loved it. I loved the brightness of color. I loved the spotted seal scene.
Yeah.
All of that. And what I loved mostly is I've been in that aquarium. I'm from right above Seattle, and so literally the trip that they took from Wyoming, they hit cities I've been to. Like Baker City is literally 45 minutes away from where I used to live for like 15 years.
That's awesome. Is it
And like,
pretty similar to what's in the game?
yeah,
Without all the
there was
clickers
a
and
lot.
the.
Exactly. With the Seattle stuff, they actually had the convention center. They had that like a concrete type park. I can't remember the name. Oh my god. But there was like Comic Con like flashes and everything, like the banners,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god. I was like, I was just there last year. I was all excited and just like it was very awesome, and I felt more tied to the area because when I was running down, going to the aquarium, I'm like, I've walked down this pier, I've walked down this street, and I absolutely loved that. I loved
That's
that.
awesome.
And I also loved Abby's collecting of the coins
Yeah.
because I used to collect those coins. I had a big board and I would fill it out because we all like it was a thing when all those quarters came out. I loved that.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that too. I love all the collectibles in the game. That was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think,
I
like you
liked.
say, it definitely adds a lot more backstory to the Seraphites, who they are. I think that's probably where you get the most knowledge about them, other than sort of offhanded
Oh yeah.
comments and notes. And I feel like they did a really good job there of showing that. So I did like that side story. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. When they tried to set Yara's arm, I was like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
That's not a settable. That's crushed bone.
you're making it
Crushed
worse.
bone." I was like, "You're literally shredding her arteries in her arm and her muscle by trying to set that. It's not settable. What are you doing, you stupid people?"
Hey, but we got medicine,
Like,
so it's all better.
oh god, you would think because even like in the military, they give you a basic like, and they're a functional type military thing. Everybody would have to have some kind of EMT type knowledge
Yeah,
and trained a little bit, and it's just like, oh, watching her do that, I was like, oh no, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. And then I actually, when you play as Ellie and you're in the aquarium, and I saw where they did the amputation, I recognized the tools. I was like, oh, somebody had an amputation. That wire and that thing, that's for cutting through bone.
oh,
So I was like, huh, I wonder who had an amputation. And then, yep, sure enough, I was like, oh no, you're gonna lose that arm. They're gonna cut that thing off.
Now can we get a real quick shout out first of all to the stadium scene and the first time you meet
Mm-hmm.
the Seraphites? Obviously, you know, that's where we sort of flip to Abby, but I actually really enjoyed that. I feel like later on it goes on a little bit too long with some of that stuff, but I actually enjoy wandering around, like seeing that side of it. How did you like that?
I really like Centurelink Field. That's where it was.
Yep.
I was like, oh, the Seahawks play there. That's cool. Um, yeah, I like that. I feel like having to walk everywhere was very annoying. I don't like it when they force me to, like when games force me to be slow. I'm like, okay, well, let me go check out this, and now I want to go check out this, and what's over here. But it was just they were trying to build the character, and it just wasn't hitting for me.
No, especially I think that's the moment you take over as her. I think that's, for me anyway, I
When you
think that
see
was
her
probably part of the problem.
bedroom,
Yeah.
when you see her bedroom, I just was like, okay, and like,
Yeah, I
and
don't
then I
care.
was irritated
I hate you.
because they
Hey.
all watch movies and play video games and everything, and I'm just like, they have all of this, and they're a bunch of
Yeah,
dickheads.
exactly.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then I think you meet Alice there, don't you? The
Yeah,
dog?
yeah, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
And then
optional,
it's
but
like,
yeah.
oh, well, every time like I would meet anybody, I'm like, oh, well, I killed you. Oh, well, you're dead. And it's like I say every single time I met somebody like as Abby, I was like, oh, well, I killed you.
Yeah,
Oh
no, I agree with that
god.
one. And then yeah, the Seraphites where I first came across then that scared the crap out of me, that first bow shot, and then when you're playing that gameplay and they're doing the
Oh god, the whistling.
it was
Yes. Just like
terrifying.
some of the drugs. Yes.
It's
I
so
knew. I
scary.
knew as soon as she was walking into the tall ferns, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, oh,
Shit's
someone's
gonna
gonna
go
hurt
down.
me. Yeah.
Did not expect it. That just came out of nowhere for me though. I wasn't expecting it. No, that one hit me
I
pretty
loved
hard.
it though.
And what about the creepy? Are they the runners? Who are the ones that just lurk around the
The
corners that
those
scare
are
the
the
crap out of?
stalkers.
Oh, they're so terrifying. I honestly had to put the game down at one
They're
point.
teenagers. Did you notice that? They're
No,
teenagers. I was
is that
looking
what
at
they are?
them, and they're built like teenagers, and I'm wondering if the fungus affects age
Differently.
differently.
Well, that would make sense because obviously they talk about the difference between the bloaters, the clickers. Like, there's some reason for them the way that they are. Um,
I'm wondering if bloaters are like obese people.
well, I think there was something to do with the fact that they're in like more like hydrated areas where there's a lot more water types, and they little things like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case actually. But they scared the crap out of me. Honestly, that was
Oh
terrifying
God,
with the surround
yes.
sound headphones on.
When they
Actually,
first show up and it's peeking around that corner looking at you, and I'm like, what the hell is it doing? Why isn't it like attack? What is it doing?
I just remember I was watching your stream and you were in one of those parts, and it must have been like a tip or a bit or a follow or something anyway, and the notification pops up and you hit it set super loud. You're like, oh my god!
I think I got raided, and it was Michael
Oh, that
Scott
was it.
screaming,
That was it.
"No,
That
no,
was the one. You're
no!"
like, why would you do that? That was it. It was a raid. It was so funny.
Oh God, it scared the crap. And those still, I need to turn that specific notification down because every single time it happens, I'm playing like Ghost of Tsushima or something, and it like I jump out of my seat. But when I was specifically playing that, it was always happening
Oh,
during a
so
real
good.
quiet, sneaky moment, and I'd get raided, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Now, before we go to all the Owen and Abby stuff, probably just a few things I guess touch off because I think it'd be good to just end with that and the island part. But probably just the scenes of Lev and the cool inside monster. You know, it's almost like the blob from the end of Inside. You know that you find at the hospital. I thought that was
Oh,
pretty
the
badass.
basement,
That was awesome.
the basement boss.
It was
Oh
so
my
cool,
God.
and how they like fall off
Yes.
him. Oh, it's so gross and disgusting, but it was amazing.
It like assimilated others, and it reminded me of an oyster mushroom.
Yeah,
Specifically, like it's from one stalk, but it splits into a bunch of different mushrooms, and like
it's
one
terrifying.
the pacing thing. I loved the hospital scene, but it was one of the most unnecessary. The whole thing, I think,
Yeah.
was just. It,
Now,
it was
correct me if
probably
I'm
one
wrong,
of the
but that
things that.
that was ground zero, right, for the outbreak?
Yes,
Yeah,
and that's why I think
that's
they
there.
had that one creature.
Yeah, which is cool. I loved it. And I loved it was just one, that it wasn't like 10 of them like throughout the game. Like, it was pretty cool.
I
Yeah,
was
it's very
playing that,
Resident Evil,
and
Josh. Very Resident Evil.
oh yeah, and I had to watch my Josh Lloyd December. I had to watch him play that after I had already done it, and I was watching him make like all the mistakes, and he was
Yeah.
focusing on the stalker that split off, and I'm like, oh, you're just waiting all your
When I
ammo.
was watching your
All
stream,
you
I'm like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
Oh no! I knew it was coming too because you had said something, and I was just like, "Oh no, something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen." And then I got into the ambulance, and it had like a bunch of things for me to like search, and I somehow grabbed the right one the first time, and I got
Yeah.
so upset thinking I had missed a collectible. like somehow in one of those other drawers because the sequence started, and I was like, "Son of a!" I'm like, "No,
there's
no,
lots of
you
that.
let me go back." Oh. But that fight was brutal and
It was
awesome.
so
I
cool.
loved that boss fight. I wish there was more of those kinds of boss fights to where it was fun. It was grueling, it was hard, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And all the stuff I love, like I say, we've talked about it with Lev specifically, and Lev and Yara as a whole, I think are fantastic. But obviously, our
Yeah.
journey to the hospital, well, I think, like you said, it was probably very drawn out, and it could have been way, way quicker. And I didn't actually like the stuff, that building leading to the bridgeway. I didn't like any of that. Like, I feel like it was just way too slow there. But I love all the stuff with Lev. Like, it made it all
Oh
worthwhile.
yeah.
Like the height stuff, like the back and forward, and like I said, it's where we also really get to know a lot about Seraphites. And I like how it's also doing this thing where it gives you someone else's perspective, and that Abby's open to it, and she's, there's obviously a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of fun stuff between the two of them, but it's fun getting to
It
know
brought
those
out her
two characters' sides.
personality
Exactly, exactly.
because I feel like she didn't have one before
Yeah.
that.
Well, she does. Yeah, I don't think she does.
She didn't. They didn't show any of her personality. They just showed anger and a girl who works out. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I
yeah,
need more than that.
yeah. No, absolutely.
uh, yeah, the crane sequence somewhere there, Josh.
Yeah. Now,
Staggering
should we
insane.
get into the Owen stuff? I want you to
Yeah, let's
lead.
get out of
I,
the way.
I
Let's
want you
get.
to. I want you to lead off on this one.
Let's talk about sex, people, shall we?
Welcome to Sex Education.
Oh my god. One, I was so angry at Owen for being piece of. Mm, Mel's pregnant. Yes, you have history with her, but you're a bad person. Two, they didn't make it unnecessary and vulgar, first of all, when Dina and Ellie had sex, or when she was taking off her shirt and had the vulnerability and was taking care of her. But no, let's just show Owen ramming Abby from behind. I mean, the boobs and everything. It was like, why? Can't you just cut to black? Like, oh yeah, they screwed around and it was really bad, but it was so, like, anger screw.
Yeah, that was something.
It was unnecessary and could have been cut, and like it would still had the same like feeling put across, but it was vulgar and
Mm,
unnecessary, and it was just like it felt like it detracted, and it was like catering to like the like sexist men type loving those kinds of scenes in games, and like the rest of us who most of us were playing this game and wanted to play this game, it was just like why? Ew.
mm.
Like, I don't. Can I skip this? And they didn't let us skip it.
Well, especially I guess with the Ellie and Dina stuff, like so tastefully done. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
And it was such a polar contrast of, like, tastefully
Mm,
done. They don't show you Ellie's tits. Why
mm,
would they show you
mm.
Abby's?
And also, I guess when you bring up Mel, when you're talking about Mel, just around the whole dynamic between the three of them, do you honestly think it would have just been better with no Mel, and it was just about Abby's drive and obsession that was driving them apart, instead of having this third person that kind of just. Oh, maybe I'm hating on Mel too much. Like,
No,
so I love I
actually,
love Ashley
she could
Birch,
have
but
been written out completely, and
I feel like it would have been
and
stronger.
yes, agreed. I feel like she was just detracting and a distraction, and she was so boring and so gray that it was just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
okay.
especially
I
that
think
scene
though,
is very powerful where she has to train. Like, she can't not train. She's
yeah,
obsessed with getting a revenge, and I feel like that would almost make it stronger. And I could understand it more as opposed to just throwing in this extra person. And once again, love Ashley Birch. Her delivery is fantastic, but I think it's just more
oh yeah.
the writing of this character. I just don't like.
I think they purposefully let her and kept her in because Dina was pregnant.
Yeah.
They wanted that similarity. They wanted her dying, and that's why Abby was like, I don't care.
Yeah. They want to mirror the
Which
exact same thing
Ellie
that was happening on
cared.
the other side with Jesse, Dina, and Ellie.
Yeah. Ellie
Yeah.
cared when she killed Owen and when she killed Mel. Like, it bothered her. It really bothered her. She did
Mm.
not want to kill those two. And they forced her hand, and it was just like, oh god, I'm now painted myself into this corner. How am I going to live with this? And it was, oof, oof.
Mm. Well, Mel's, when you think about it, yeah, she is the Jessie of the group, but we like Jessie.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point from Southern Josh. If Owen and Nora were the two getting, if Nora and Owen were the two getting together, it would have propelled the whole group.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that would probably make more sense. Yeah,
I
and
feel
like I
like
say, even if there
Nora
was a different
fell
arc,
into
but
the background more,
yeah,
but I
and
liked
even
her
like I say,
better.
if there was that background arc between, like, so they could have definitely done more with her and her dad. Like, I feel like that's very throwaway. Like, say if she, obviously
Yes.
her dad died. Imagine if her dad died, but she had this kind of rivalry between, Abby and Mel, and Mel is the one that is actually with Owen, and there's that whole dynamic there. I
Hmm.
think that'll be way more interesting. But
Fighting for her dad's affection kind of deal.
yeah,
Which, by the way, I shot her dad in the foot and he just fell over dead when I played the game. Because I didn't want to kill the doctor, and I'm like, okay, just put the freaking scalpel down, dude. I'm like, what are you gonna do? I have a gun. I have a gun.
who dies
So
from a
I
bullet
shot
to
him
the
in the
foot?
foot. I literally shot him in the foot, and he fell over dead. And I was like, well, that's not on me.
That's on you. That's you, Beth.
I shot him in the foot.
He got a really bad foot infection. You know.
Evidently, and immediately died within half a second. God.
Anything else you want to add to the whole Owen and Abby relationship?
Both selfish, horrible human beings that I would not be friends with in real life.
I did.
Though
I
I
will say
like
I did like the ferry scene. What do you call those things? It's the what do you call them? I'm really blanking on this.
wharfs.
At the theme parks. What do they have them? They've got the what do you call it? You go around the ride
Merry-go-round?
merry-go-round. It is right. It is that right?
With the horses?
No, maybe the one where where they're sitting in the seats. It's that thing that goes around. It's the giant circle. What
The
is it?
graviton?
What's that?
The graviton?
The gravitron? The
Those are,
what do they call them?
teacups.
Kind of like teacups? No, but it's more vertical. You know, when they're sitting, it's at the aquarium. It's just outside. There's that giant circle thing you sit in. You go to the theme parks. They have them everywhere, and they go around. Do you remember the scene?
No, I don't.
They
I'm
jump up.
like,
They jump off into the water. There's that whole back and forth between the two. Ferris wheel. That's the one, Josh. I'm an idiot.
oh,
I'm an idiot.
the Seattle Ferris wheel.
The big wheel, the thing with the
Oh
things,
my god. The way you were describing it, I thought they were like spinning horizontally, not vertically. I was like, what? When did this happen? Yeah, the Ferris wheel that's down by Pike and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I did like that scene.
It's gorgeous at night, by the way. They light it up, and it's
Oh,
absolutely
that's
beautiful.
awesome. I want to go to Seattle so bad.
It's pretty cool. Not right now, but
No, no, one day.
normally it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I was kind of
Cool.
hoping they would go to the gum wall or something. I liked the Ferris wheel scene and like reemphasizing Abby's fear of heights. I loved her fear of heights actually.
Yeah.
I liked that forced perspective thing that they would do and her breathing. You hear her heartbeat. Oh,
Hmm.
I loved that. That was awesome.
Now we're coming up to some of my favorite parts. So first off, we've got let's just go straight to the island, I think.
Yes.
Apparently it's divisive, but I absolutely loved all of this. I thought this was fantastic. Like I was saying, I loved all the Scars stuff. I love, once again,
Hmm.
obviously going after Lev and everything that was happening around that. The super sad and heartbreaking stuff with his mum, like that was so painful. What did you think of this whole sequence?
I absolutely really liked it. Actually, I liked
Yeah,
being able because I played Abby and I played Ellie very differently. I didn't think that was possible because I usually when I'm playing a game I play the characters how I play them, sneaky sneaky, which I really like. Um, I wasn't sneaky sneaky Abby, but at the island I was,
mm.
which I actually liked her better. I think when I was being sneaky sneaky, and I
Sneaky
loved
sneak.
the crossbow.
Not stabby
I
stab.
loved the crossbow. No, not stabby stab. I liked the I liked the crossbow a lot. I also liked the different kinds of scars. I like the big brutes.
Yeah,
I liked having the different kind. That was a lot of fun for me. I liked being able to see like lifestyle of the scars. They reminded me of in Metro 3 with the people who shied away from technology.
mm.
I really liked that actually. Um, the it, I didn't. It felt really real with the whole religious aspect because I was raised very religious. So I
Mm.
was just like, oh, this feels really too close to home kind of
Mm.
deal.
Yeah.
And like the way they use it to control and everything, and
Yeah, I
just
like the lines about, hey, look, we weren't always like that, like until, was it the leader of the group that died, right? And then
yep.
certain
And then it
people
got
took over and then they
skewed.
changed, yeah, and I kind of liked all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Didn't feel like,
child brides is basically what they had
yeah,
after that. that
Yeah.
I was just like so angry.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like when Josh was playing, I immediately knew with Lev, like immediately. I was like, oh, he's transgendered, and I knew. And Josh didn't. He was like, oh yeah, it's a boy, blah blah blah. And he kept, well, I was like sitting there watching him play, and I was like, will he figure it out? And then he figured it out when they told him, and I was just like, yeah, that's actually like one of the main plot pushing things for that group and for these characters. And I loved it. I thought it was beautifully done. It was very triggering for some people with like the dead names and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Which when I was listening to like What's Good Games and their spoiler cast about that, they talk about that a lot. And I was like, I didn't think about that because I don't have that experience. But when you think about it and take a step back, of like, oh. But I loved how Naughty Dog went about this and did this, and I thought it was very beautifully done. I
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And I
Yeah.
love Lev. And I love it when you first meet them as Abby and it's that scene from the trailer that they first showed us. And like it's at night and dark and you're running with both of them and like trying to fight and escape. Oh, that was a hard scene for me. It was
Oh,
so
how about the
fun.
standoff? The standoff with the leader of the Scar, of the leader of the Wolf. Like, obviously you see
Oh,
him earlier at the
Isaac.
stadium, but that was pretty intense.
Can we just talk about the stadium though and the torture?
Oh,
Like the cells?
yeah,
That's one of the main reasons I hated Abby. She
yeah,
was indifferent and did not care. They were not human to her. And it was just like, you're a disgusting person. No. No. He was literally taking a knife to that Seraphite's groin and
mm.
torturing that man. Like,
She
they
knew
didn't
everything
care.
that was going on, and she was just doing what she was told until obviously everything with Owen went down.
Yep.
Um,
And it was just, and Jeffrey Wright, I love him as an
yeah,
actor too. So bringing
fantastic.
him in, I was just like, oh, I immediately recognized his voice, and I was like, BT.
Yeah. Oh, the clipper wing scene. Oh, that was brutal. Oh,
Mm.
Josh, that was
That made
painful.
me sick.
Yeah.
That made me sick.
And I loved all the stuff on the island about like escaping, like the riding through the horse through the village. I even kind of liked it was a little bit like boss battle-y, but the bigger sort of brute that you have to take on. I kind of felt that was awesome from Abby's perspective, like the fact that she'd
Mm-hmm.
worked so hard to get this, and she can actually kind of take on this particular person the way
Yeah.
she it was awesome. I loved it. I kicked that person's
When
butt
she
too.
lost the backpack and had to fight with
Yeah.
like nothing.
That was just
Oh.
brutal. It was awesome. But all the stuff like
Mm-hmm.
leading off the island, and then just that moment where you get back and find out that everyone's been murdered, including Puppy. No.
Yeah. Oh, Alice.
Yeah.
After throwing her favorite toy, and it was all squeaky and cute.
Yeah, that one cut
Are my
too.
people? God, yes, you are my people. Oh.
Yeah.
That's when
Um.
I actually really started liking. Not but the beginning, but like Lev and Yara and the crane scenes and all of that. I really started to like Abby because they actually were bringing her humanity back.
Yeah. At that point, it's like it's you and me, Lev. Like everyone else can just
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, they better not kill Lev.
screw everyone.
I loved Yara's last scene though,
Oh yeah, that was
because
heartbreaking.
it was heartbreaking. But I was like, yes, yes, Yara, shoot him.
Yeah.
And
And
then they just unloaded so many bullets into her body. I was like, oh god.
and poor Lev with his mum, like, oh, so sad.
So
Mm,
depressing. He had so many cuts all over his body, and
yeah.
it was just, oh,
Mm. And that leads us back to where we eventually get back to the theatre scene, right? That's pretty much everything, right?
I think so. There was
Yeah.
Manny's death and the whole sniper scene.
Yeah, that was cool. But poor
I
man, poor
immediately knew
Manny.
as soon as they said it was sniper because we had that flashback with Ellie and
Yeah,
she teaches you to snipe, and I was like, oh, it's Tommy.
it's Tommy. And he
Oh,
killed
I
our
was all
boy
excited.
Manny. And that's probably why we didn't see him too much during that startup sequence. Yeah, that was awesome. I love that stuff. Yeah, super sad to see Manny go, but yeah, very impactful because it was built up a little bit, which is good.
By the way, it does not rain that much in Seattle. That was insane. Like everything was flooded, and I was like, "Where is this water coming from? Like, what?"
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that. I think they had some sort of reasoning for it, some sort of
Like levees
climate
broke or something? Oh.
climate stuff where if a certain thing flooded, it would do certain things. I don't know. But yeah, that was a little bit interesting. So now we're
It was
getting
so
to
dreary and cold.
now we're getting to the stuff I'm super excited to get to. So now we jump back to the theater we find out exactly what's going on here. So talk us through this, Beth.
The fight.
Yeah.
I don't wanna. It was horrible. It was the worst scene for me in the whole sequence. It was.
Mm.
I was miserable. I did not enjoy this fight. I don't know anybody who actually can
Why did we
say
play
they
it?
enjoyed it. I don't know,
It
but
was
you're
weird,
making us
right?
play a character that we are fresh with and that we're kind of liking, going after somebody we absolutely love, and it's just
Yeah.
like nobody was rooting for Abby in that scene. I'm sorry, and if you said you were, you're a liar. But like
I feel like it took the
watching,
impact away too, right?
it did. Brought me out of the game. I immediately was brought out of the game of like, I'm seeing an AI play Ellie. I'm Ellie. What? I
Mm.
don't like this. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Very video gamey.
Yes, I didn't like it. And it was not just that, but watching her use the skills that you leveled up and doing the bombs and all of that against you.
Mm.
It
Josh is
was
with us.
just
Some other Josh is with us.
it was hard. It was hard. And
Yeah.
Ellie kicked my butt many times because I was not doing well.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, it was hard. And I didn't like it. And I didn't
No.
like this.
Now, obviously, well, as Abby, we win. We
Yeah.
obviously let everyone go that's still alive. Shout out to RIP Jesse. Um, and then I think this is where we cut to the farm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the PTSD.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean,
But I
I guess
loved the farm
first off
scene.
the bat, we've obviously got baby JJ, which I'm taking as Joel and Jesse.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Neil said it was not Junior, so it is
No.
Jesse Joel or Joel Jesse. I think Jesse Joel.
And I love this so much. That obviously Dina had been talking about, obviously just moving to a farm, just, outside of Jackson, that's her dream, that's what she's always wanted. And seeing this happy moment, and then after about 4 minutes of wandering around with baby JJ, I'm like, okay, they're not ending it here. Like, this is The Last of Us. We're not going to get a happy ending.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, something else is happening.
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna get attacked here by clickers? What's gonna happen? Am
Yeah.
I gonna watch a baby get ripped apart because you would
Yeah.
do that, Naughty Dog?
Yeah.
But like, I loved the dance scene. I loved the corralling of the sheep and going and finding the little elephant on the tractor and sitting with
Oh,
JJ on the tractor and being able to take a screenshot of that was just like so pretty and
shout out to
gorgeous. And
JJ. Hey?
oh God, seriously, the cutest little kid ever.
He was super
I
quiet
want to
for parts of
see.
it, but did you ever notice that wandering around? It's like nothing for like 4 or 5 minutes, and it's like, all right, no baby's that quiet.
I
Surely.
know. Oh,
That was
I would
awesome.
love to see this game on the PS5 and
Oh, I
how
can't wait.
gorgeous that scene would be.
That'd
For
be
sure. I want
so
to see
good.
that. But her in the barn and how she's not okay. Like,
Mm,
I
no,
loved that they showed that she doesn't sleep well.
the trauma
She's
from it all.
not okay. She has PTSD. She's probably had it since she was a little kid.
And she wants so
Um,
badly to move on, so badly just to let
she
it
really
go.
does. And Tommy, you selfish son of a bee.
I
Just
can't wait to get to that scene. Oh, actually, sorry, Josh, that's worth mentioning too. Sorry, previously, yeah, the she's pregnant line that hit
oh,
hard, and that definitely makes sense from a character perspective. I think maybe that's what they were trying to do with Mel, but I don't think that sort of came through. That obviously that would have hit Abby harder because of Mel's pregnancy, but I don't think that really sort of resonated at all. But yeah, that moment that she screams she's
mm,
pregnant. Whew. Yeah,
good, saying good, and it's
yeah,
just oh God, her beating up Dina in the first place. I was like, oh God,
yeah,
you're gonna kill Dina now.
yeah,
Cool. Aw, why are you doing this to me?
yeah,
But love having to bring Abby back from that moment.
yeah,
Like it reiterated that I don't like Abby, but I like Lev, and I like Abby around Lev.
yeah. Exactly the dynamic of the two. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, yeah, back to the farm. So it probably does lead into that scene though, right? Obviously, we like I say, we get the PTSD, we get all the stuff with
And the
Dina, which is
dancing in the
amazing.
kitchen.
Oh, it's so
Oh, the
good.
music.
And like I said, wandering around and just checking everything out. It was such a cool moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Her
yeah,
special painting room.
oh,
I
that's
love that
awesome.
room.
And obviously, it's going to hit harder later, like we'll talk about when we
Mm-hmm.
revisit this place. But yeah, so that probably leads us into probably, I think, for me anyway, the most impactful scene. We see Tommy, but we see a very different Tommy. He's obviously not terribly mobile. He can't do a lot. His face is obviously extremely mutilated.
He looks like he had a stroke.
Yeah, and obviously we find out that his wife's left him. That he's a completely different and broken man compared to the optimistic and kind of happy-go-lucky Tommy that we sort of saw in the first game at the start of this game. Like, very, very different. We see what, revenge has done to someone that could have easily been Ellie, Like, she could have lost it
Yeah.
all. She could have lost Dina. We kind of see the other side of what could happen and potentially what could happen to Ellie when we're about to make a decision, when Ellie's about to make a decision very soon. So this one personally, yeah, hit me pretty hard 'cause like I said, Tommy's one of my favorite characters. He's so cool to see him broken like that was so impactful, but really showed off obviously the world of The Last of Us and what it actually is. So how did you
And
feel
how it
about this scene?
changes you.
He's so selfish
Uh,
in this moment, but it's so
it
hard.
made me
Imagine how
so
hard it
upset.
was. Yeah, and imagine how hard it was for him to ask for help just because he can't do it.
Yep.
He always
He.
wants to do it himself. Like for him to
Yep.
actually have to ask, like it must have
It
hurt
was
so
humbling.
much. Yeah,
Definite hit to his pride. I loved Tommy in, like earlier in the game, and I loved him in the first game and everything. And it was just like the world changed him.
yeah,
Joel's death changed him. This fight changed him. Getting shot in the face changed him. And it was just like, imagine you're this man at that age, so strong, and then having a young girl basically just knock you to your knees, and you are always on your knees after that. And it's just
yeah,
like your wife leaves you, the one person who understood him for who he was and was with him for so long, and the way he described her in the first game, and it's just like she couldn't deal with the hate that he became and left. And it's just like before that they were trying for a kid, weren't they? I think they mentioned that they were
yep,
trying for a child. And it's just like he lost everything, and I feel like he fell into that pit of how Abby and Ellie were, of that hate and that revenge, and he chose the selfishness like they did, and it made me so angry because he had no right to come into their life when they're trying to heal and to ask that of her.
mm,
No right. It was so selfish. It made me so upset and so angry because he knew with just a couple of
mm,
words and mentioning Joel and what she owed him. It was just like that was low and mean and
mm.
cruel. It was cruel.
So strong from a
Oh,
story perspective, eh? Like just and then Tommy and Dina outside arguing. Yeah,
yes.
that hit hard. Yeah, and honestly, I felt like it would have taken something like that to just even make her think about doing it again. And like I say, we already saw the PTSD that she was having trouble letting go. Yeah, it wouldn't have probably, to be honest, probably taken too much actually thinking about it now to push her over. But obviously Tommy's visit obviously did it. So now we obviously get the moment when obviously she's waking up during the night and she's sneaking
Makes
out
that
to.
decision. Yeah.
She obviously takes a few moments to sort of get everything together and then leave. But yeah, this is the part that obviously probably hit the most, where it's just she just can't, seeing her just not being able to let go. She has everything she's ever wanted, and she still can't just let it lie. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think she, on some level, wanted to heal, and she couldn't heal, and there was this last little bit of just rotting, and she wanted to cut it away and get rid of it and get rid of that. And it's not the way to go about it,
no,
but I think she felt like it was the only way. And I honestly props and respect to Dina for standing. She's like, no.
yeah,
She's like, you do this, you're putting a line in the sand, you're making that decision, and that's that for me.
yeah,
I love Dina for that.
yeah, yeah. Cool. And then we get the switch again.
Another switch,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Now I actually
everybody
thought.
hates
Oh, so you go.
everybody hates on the Santa Barbara stuff, but I
I enjoyed
loved
it.
it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I actually thought when they found that house and they're looking for the fireflies, I thought that was a trap by Ellie and Tommy. I thought somehow Tommy was helping and assisting. I thought that was Tommy on the radio because they knew that they were after looking for the fireflies. I thought they were
Yeah.
setting a trap to lure them in to catch Abby. They knew she was there, knew she was looking for the fireflies. It was, yeah, kind of a shock to me that it was someone else, but I kind of felt like they were going into a trap regardless, I guess. So, but I thought it was
Well,
them.
the person on the radio, that wasn't a trap. I mean, look at the screen right now. That boat's on Catalina Island.
Hmm.
So
Do you think?
they went to Catalina Island. They made
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So I think with I liked the, what were they? Not the snakes, the rattlers. I liked being able to see the badness of the humans again, like on that cannibalistic, slavey type side, just like it was with David in the first game. I kind of feel like I was missing that a little bit in this game
Yeah.
because we got a lot of the infected, and we got the cultists, and we got the military people, but we didn't get the other ones, the bad humans kind of
Yeah.
thing, like the survivally evil eat other people humans. I really liked the Santa Barbara scene. I liked as soon as they were looking for the house, I was like, oh, there's gonna be trap. They
Yeah.
are not making it out of here.
Yeah.
I'm like, not happening.
And I like
Yeah.
the gameplay dynamic as well with the being able to release the clickers onto the other
Hmm.
ones. You know, they got them chained up and you undo the chains and let them go. And
I loved that. It reminded me a little bit of The Walking Dead with Michonne and the ones she had on the chains.
mm, yeah,
Um, but I liked them being in the warmer, sunnier California climate. I thought that was a really nice
yeah, it's
change
cool.
from the super crazy wetness of
Yeah,
Seattle.
I'm always down for an
uh,
environment change in any game. Like spending so
mhm.
long in Seattle, I was definitely ready for something a little bit different. Yeah. And then is probably, I think we could probably skip straight to the very last moments of, I guess, where we'd interact with Ellie and Abby. So obviously we're going through as Ellie, we're trying to hunt down Abby. We find out that she actually did try and escape, but she's actually being punished. And obviously know the rough general direction. And then we come across I guess a very different Abby. She's obviously been strung up there for quite some time. She's lost muscle mass. She's obviously been at this camp for some time
Oh yeah,
now.
months.
Yeah. And like I say, very almost, once again, almost broken, damaged
Oh,
version of
she's
Abby.
completely broken as a person.
Yeah.
Completely broken. She has one thought in her mind: Lev, protect Lev. And I actually really like Abby like that. I
Yeah.
think she needed to be humbled in a way. Um, I've read this correlation of she's Samson and her hair was cut,
Oh, yeah.
and then she was no longer this big strong person.
Hmm.
Um, but God, that oof, the watching Ellie fight with all the emotions, and like that was so beautifully done, and watching her face and seeing all the emotions and all the thoughts cross her face and her
Hmm.
reacting to all of them of this is not what she expected, this is not what she wanted,
No.
and now she's faced with this decision, and then she pulls that low thing and pulls a knife on Lev's throat.
Yeah.
Lev is passed out. Like Lev is like, Ellie, that's not you. Knock it off. Like I know
No.
you're trying to get a reaction, but stop it. Stop it right now.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that fight.
Yeah. Making her fight like that and then her eventually agreeing to it and then just getting into the heat of it, it was just crazy. I mean, the first game I kind of did it with the doctor scene as well. Is probably where I'd probably relate it to the most. We obviously don't really want to have to shoot the doctor. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, this one here I found even way harder. Like getting to the end of that scene, I couldn't press the button. I had to die twice before I was like, okay, they're clearly going to make it because I thought it was going to finish her off. And
Yeah.
as, as much as I was torn on the Abby character, for the most part, I still really liked her and the way the story went, and I didn't want to have that happen. So yeah, I
You don't
didn't
want to
press.
kill a broken person. You
No, like how could you kill her like that? So how did you feel about this final scene with Abby?
I agree with some of the Josh. I was disgusted.
Yeah.
I had no fight left in me. I was going through the motions at this point of that fight scene. I'm just like, this needs to end. Please stop. Just please stop killing each other. I
Mm,
thought that that Ellie would get down there and hear about the fireflies and sacrifice herself. I
mm,
thought she was be like, oh, I'll go with you, and maybe my death can finally mean something.
yeah.
And then it took this turn, and then Abby bit her fingers off.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Oh God! Like, do you have any idea how hard that would actually be to bite through bone in
Yeah.
the first place? How? Like,
Oh.
oh, I was so sick when she did that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw up. No, no, just no. And then it came right back down to like the same thing with Nora of having to make the choice. I was just like,
Mm,
no, please don't make me do this. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't fun. I don't want to. No. Hmm.
yeah, that was tough. And like I say, seeing her so broken and still doing it, like you think that would be enough for her to see that she's paid for, well, not necessarily what she's done, but she is the way she is now. Like you think that would be enough for Ellie, but still making her fight and still keep on going, and then just yeah, that final moments of. I think for most players, they must have realized like pressing square almost felt like you're about to kill her, right? I'm not the only one, right?
Yep.
Like
Oh
if
no, no. I felt like, oh great, I'm gonna kill her now.
yeah,
This sucks. This sucks.
yeah. it felt like there was that last moment where you're like, if I press square, I'm pretty sure it's going to kill her. And yeah, I'm glad they didn't, because obviously it
The
sounds like a
flash
thing.
to Joel.
Yeah, I think that there was going to possibly be that option, talking to or listening to a few spoilercasts and things like that. But yeah, that was tough. Yeah,
That last flash to Joel, I needed that flash.
yeah,
I didn't realize how much I needed the forgiveness from Ellie to
mm,
him. And like that was the just her hearing his voice and her finally taking a step back and stopping. I was just like, thank God.
mm, yeah. And I think even probably almost more impactful, not quite as impactful, but the moment after, like Ellie's reaction after she lets them go, like she's obviously still pretty torn and cut up about everything that's happened, but obviously there's probably some part of her that I can finally let go of everything that's happened. Is that what you kind of got out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did actually. I felt like she finally let go and it was just like able to cut that rotten piece off of her,
Mm,
really. But the problem is by doing that, I think she gave up so much of herself that she's gonna have like the longest time finding her humanity again.
yeah. Yeah.
I feel like she's right where Joel almost was after he lost Sarah. He wasn't really he didn't have humanity anymore. He became evil, and
Yeah.
she's past that point of just like now she's just empty. She's empty. She
Yeah.
doesn't have Dina. She doesn't have JJ. She doesn't have her revenge. She has nothing. What is the point of her? She can't even like she's going to be thinking about all of these things.
Mm.
What's the point of me?
And that's also why I think that flash to Joel is also important. Is like you say, she knows Joel came back from that to a certain degree, and obviously Tommy as well.
Yeah.
Like she knows that you might not be back to full humanity, but there's definitely part of you that can sort of come back from that. And obviously she's left Dina and JJ, but there is still hope there.
Well, did you see the tweet about she wasn't wearing the bracelet going down to Santa Barbara? Like she didn't have Dina's bracelet, but when she went back to the farm, she did.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
So and then I don't know if Neil actually confirmed it or not, but it was like retweeted and everything of uh so she went to Jackson most likely before she went back to the farm.
Mm,
So and I actually kind of like that better because her fingers are pretty freaking healed if you look at it. It's
mm,
been a long time actually because once you like are amputated and everything, that area is red and it is raw for a while. It's not scarred tissued up until a long time. It takes a while for scar tissue to happen, and her fingers had scar tissue. They were fully healed.
mm,
And I think it would take longer than just a trip from Santa Barbara because she had a boat up, right? So it would take
yeah.
longer from that trip coming back up and then cutting across to Wyoming again. So the possibility of her already going to Dina and maybe repairing it to some level, but not fully. I honestly don't think Ellie deserves Dina and JJ. Period. She made her choice, and that's the consequence. I'm sorry, that's life. That's the consequence. You
Mm,
don't deserve Dina and JJ. Even though I want happiness for you and I want you to be healed as a person and to have that humanity back, you don't deserve them.
mm,
Flat out.
yeah. And obviously the scene next, obviously after that, is her going back to the farm. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you can still wander around, but it's a very different place. That's obviously going to hit pretty hard. But then obviously her picking up the guitar and not being able to play all the notes. Yeah,
Oh, I cried. I cried. I was just like,
yeah. Especially
oh.
when it's a gameplay mechanic right the way through. You can pick up and play that guitar anytime. We've got the Take On Me scene, like her not being able to play. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Eh?
And every time she would start the song Future Days and not finish it, I
Yeah.
was just like, come on, sing it, just sing it. And listening to. By the way, shout out to frickin' Naughty Dog for actually using the touchpad in a great way.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, I love it so much.
I
And seeing the cool
loved
creative
strumming the
things people are
guitar.
doing with it, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Mark Hoppus actually played a Blink 182 song on it.
What?
Yeah, there's
That's
a video of
awesome.
him playing a Blink 182 song.
I'm gonna have a look at that.
Oh.
You have to check that out. Um, yeah, super impactful, and then we get the final moments of the game, which I personally think one of my favorite moments is obviously this her scene between her and Joel. Um, and it's
Yes.
her pretty much saying, "Hey, look, I'm open to forgiving you." And for me, I kind of got the feeling that it was, "Hey, look, if she can begin to forgive Joel for what he did, there's a chance that maybe Dina can obviously forgive her for
Yep.
what she did." Obviously, I like how they left it open because, like you said, yeah, I think it wouldn't be quite so great if the ending was pretty clear cut as to what was going to happen. If you just went home, everything was happily ever after, or if it was the complete opposite. I kind of like where they leave it here, where it's up to the player to decide, you know, what you
Well,
interpret
it's
that
like the
scene
first
as.
game they leave it open, like
Yeah,
that of like that empty space where words are but haven't been said, and
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. So how did this final scene play for you?
I loved it. I cried like a baby. I
Yeah,
totally cried like a baby. And seeing Joel again and him breaking when she said, "I am not ready to forgive you, but I'm willing to try," and just his
mm,
face of because he was hanging on that moment. He loves her so much. He gave up so
yeah,
much for her. He gave up so much for her that he let his guard down when he ran into Abby in that group. Because he did. The old Joel would have never let his guard down like he did.
yeah.
But Ellie made him softer, and just like it made me happy because also having somebody die when you ended on bad words and ended with like a fight or something is the most horrible thing in the entire world. You can't ever come back from that. Like,
Mm.
there's nothing else you can do. And so, having them be able to have that little tiny bit, even though it was just a step in that direction, it wasn't a full forgiveness, love, they were still having issues, but just that step, it was just, oh,
Well, I
it
think the
took
good
at the
thing
right
about
seconds.
him, one good thing I should say about him dying pretty early on is they actually use him very sparingly. And that's why that flash at the fight, this final scene at the end, I feel like hits way harder because they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
use him all the time. Like, they could clearly have more flashbacks, but they use him so sparingly in such great moments like the museum, like going back to tell, when she actually found out, and then, like I said, that fight scene and that final scene, like they're not he's not peppered throughout the entire game, and it makes it so impactful at the end when you get that final moment with him. Yeah,
Because we value it more. It's not so overly saturated
yeah,
with Joel.
yeah.
I love that because we long for those little moments with him and lap it up and take in every word and every facial expression and God freaking Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. I mean, just all the feels.
What a game,
Oh,
eh?
seriously, it's such a good game.
Shout out to
Like,
Naughty Dog,
ugh. I wouldn't
Oh, that scene.
honestly. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, but that's because I don't give any game a 10 out of 10. I don't feel
Yeah.
any game is perfect. This game had many issues throughout the entire thing, not just pacing and the controls and all of that. Like the first game, I would give a 9 or a 9.5 for
Mm,
sure. This one, 8.5
mm.
tops. It's just it had too many little issues, but I understand why everybody gave it the tens. I do. It was so Naughty Dog got their point across
Mm. And that's the same
of
thing for
what they
me. Like,
wanted to
honestly,
tell.
for me, it's a 10. I think it's a masterpiece, but I have huge problems with it. But I think that's kind of the thing with adding a number to it. At the end of the day, like, I still think it's a
Yeah.
brilliant. Everyone should play it. It's a masterclass in storytelling. But I still have
Okay.
some pretty big issues like we've talked about, and we might talk about quickly before we recap. But I
Yeah.
still thought it was absolutely fantastic. One thing I kind of wanted to touch on, because there are a lot of outlets that are reporting this game as, I think some of them quoted as saying violence is bad. We get it. Like, it's about the cycle of violence. I mean, for me personally, there are a lot of themes throughout the game, but the one that sort of I felt it was more about is just obsession in general and addiction and trying to let
Yes.
go and just that entire thing of wanting to Ellie to just stop Ellie as the player. Like, but I think either we know in ourselves or other people, like, everyone's got addictions and obsessions, some to, more degrees than others. And like, whether it's someone in your life that has a pretty horrible addiction and you just want them to stop and they can't, like, that's probably the thing that, hit for me is, I'm sure everyone's got friends, family, people they know that they see going through this thing, and you just pretty much just say, look, just stop, just don't do it, it's not worth it. But Ellie just can't let go, and I think for me, that was kind of my main theme that I took away. There's a lot of through themes and a lot of things in there. What do you sort of feel about that? Do you think it is just hey, look, violence is bad, we get it, or do you think there is more to it and they're just simplifying it? And what do you feel?
I think they're oversimplifying that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was very violent, but you have a choice of being violent in the game or not. Like
yeah,
Naughty Dog was very, very obvious, like very blatant about that. Like you don't have to kill everybody unless you want to.
yeah,
Like there's no need. You can let everyone live except for the cinematic pieces. Um, I think their message was revenge and selfishness can be all freaking consuming. It
yeah.
can be consuming. Don't let it consume you. Please take a step back. See this. See what it does to people. See the consequences of doing that and making these choices. And also have empathy. God, empathy was such a big thing in that. If you need to understand other people's shoes, like be in their shoes, and take a step outside of yourself and see these things.
Hmm.
And I think they very much got that across,
Yeah.
very dramatically
Yeah.
and shoved in my face, but they got it across.
Yeah. And not very subtly.
No, not subtle at all. Like
You know, as
so
soon as
deep
that
out the
switch happens,
window.
you're like, I know what you're doing. Naughty dog.
I was so angry. I was so angry that I had to play Abby. It made
Yeah.
me so upset.
Yeah. Now, I do want to get final thoughts on the game as a whole shortly, but do you think there's anything that we've missed off in regards to the story? Any themes that really need to be pointed out? Anything that we might have missed?
I think we got everything, but I also think it was really hilarious that Joel did not know that Ellie was gay. Like it cracked me up that he thought that she had a
Oh
crush
yeah,
on
the Jesse
Jesse,
guy.
and she's like, "No,
I
no,
forgot
dude,
about
I'm
that scene.
good." It was so awkward. I'm just like, "Oh no, Joel, how are you so blind?" Oh my
He's a
gosh,
great dad, you know?
it was adorable, but it was just like, "Oh,
A
Joel."
great father-daughter moment.
Mm-hmm. It was very cute. Very cute.
Oh, I love it.
Uh,
That's cool.
it
So
was.
do you want to go first and just give me your overall? This is where we just talk about the game as a whole, but just sort of give me your overall thoughts as to the game. Like I said, now we can talk spoilers, you can talk whatever you want to, but just the game in general. How do you feel about it?
I feel better now that time has passed after beating it
Yeah,
because uh, this game came out in the worst possible time. I
yeah,
mean, what everybody, all of us are dealing with. I feel like it was more raw because of that. I think we're all
yeah.
more raw because of what's happening, and
It's not very
we.
uplifting, you know?
No, it was such a dark game that honestly it made me not want to play games for a few weeks, and I had a really hard time getting back to streaming and playing games. Like I was playing golf with your friends instead and things like that because I
Yeah,
just could not deal with. I needed time to
yeah.
heal somewhat from that, and honestly I hated the game so much while playing it in certain parts. But now taking a step back and being able to breathe and reflect back on it, I didn't hate it. I was just upset and feeling all those emotions. I didn't know how to process it. And
Mm,
so it took time afterward to process this game, to really take a step outside of my comfort zone and my view and really look at the game as a whole and different parts here and there and why they'd made these choices. And I like it better the longer I haven't played it. And so
yeah,
I know when I get to go back to it, I can enjoy it more for my second playthrough, and I won't be so angry and anti Abby when I first start.
yeah. Nice. Well said. Anything else you want to add about the game? I'll go through mine shortly, but
The
no.
Stars versus Wolves versus Battlers, maybe the Fireflies. I don't know. I don't think so. I think the multiplayer, some other Josh, is going to be kind of like the other multiplayer, maybe. Who knows?
I don't know if it's coming, or at least if it's not coming soon. Because listening to that spoiler cast, Neil Druckmann didn't sound too confident. Obviously, you can't give any comments, but
Well, they said it was going to be like a year when they announced this
yeah,
game a while ago. They said, yeah, like a year later, you're going to get multiplayer, which
yeah,
I was really happy about because I wasn't able to platinum the first game because of all the stupid multiplayer
yeah.
crap, and I was very, very upset. So,
Although knowing Naughty Dog too, they'll probably turn it into something bigger and like kind of like the last,
mhm.
Lost Legacy. They're always pretty good at that, aren't they? Starting with a small project and then ballooning out of control and getting bigger.
Are we
Um,
going to get any DLC like Left Behind?
I feel like there's a chance, right? There's lots they could do with like the scars and Lev and all that kind of stuff. What would
Oh,
you
I
like
would
to see
love
added some
that.
DLC?
I would like to be able to play as Lev.
Yeah, Yeah.
I think that would be fun, and seeing little bits of that, and maybe some flashbacks to the martyr, or maybe playing as a martyr or Isaac.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. And
Imagine,
seeing
imagine
like
playing as
that
Lev,
all go down.
like a Left Behind kind of thing on the island with Lev, like something maybe less combat
Oh my
driven.
goodness.
Obviously, maybe clickers and things like that, but playing what he had to go through, like just to survive on that island and everything with his mum. Can you imagine
I
how
would
hard that
like
would hit?
that.
Yeah, and
Oh
Naughty Dog could
God.
pull it off, so
Oh
that would
yeah,
be cool.
totally. Like him getting the boat and actually traveling there and like trying
Yeah,
to get there and sneaking and oh, that'd be good.
that'd be cool. Because obviously Left Behind didn't have too much combat; they'd just kind of right amount. So something like that would be awesome. Yeah.
Some other Josh. Yeah, it's called Manny Eats a Burrito. That's the DLC.
Oh, we've covered that off. Yeah, sorry.
So how did you feel about it? I want to hear. I want to hear your thoughts and like just go deep on it.
Yeah, let's go deep. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, my overall very similar to you. I absolutely love it. Like I say, I talked about it. I think it's an absolute masterclass in storytelling. It's brilliant. But I do have some pretty big issues and caveats with that. I feel like it's way too long. Uh, I don't know
Oh yeah.
why it's as long as it is. There's definitely pacing issues and things that could be taken out. And I think part of that is that jarring midpoint. But I feel like even taking that out of it, there's a lot of stuff that I would try and change if I could about the game. I also particularly, I don't know why we still have like frustrating puzzles. Why is every door locked? Why do I have to spend 5 minutes to try and find something, to find an alternative path or something I can use to open this door? Like I feel like it just slows the game down like crazy, and I swear they probably do that for, surely it must be for, loading times and things like that hidden in there, but that stuff drives me insane. I hate running around. Oh, it's fine if it's peppered in there, but it seems to be every door in that game is locked, and you have to try
Yep.
and find a way to unlock it to do it. And I just wanted to play that game mainly for the story. I
When the
loved it.
pandemic happened, did everybody just go around
Yeah,
locking all
they
their
did.
doors?
They
Like
did.
what the? Like in their? It was just like what? No.
Actually, speaking of
Uh,
that, I did actually like that moment. I don't know if you got to it in the game. You probably would have got it, where there's the note back and forth between the two apartments. I love
oh
that whole storyline.
yes.
That was super cool. But yeah, why? Why? I mean, I know it's a pandemic. Everyone's barging in, they're locking in, but maybe just don't put as many doors in next time, please, Naughty Dog. I love the rope mechanic. I thought that was cool. It sounds like the technology they used to pull that off is crazy. If you've seen that video. But yeah, I absolutely loved it overall. But yeah, had some real big pacing issues, and yeah, I think it's even with the first game, that's one of my favorite games of all time. But even then, I didn't like the finding the generators to do this. I just can't stand it. Unless the puzzle was fun, just don't put it in the game. Don't pad it. I'd rather play a 10-hour incredible game than a 20-hour okay game. You know what I mean?
Agreed. I think they
Story.
made it longer because the first game was pretty short. Like it
Yeah.
was very linear. They kept you on track. You didn't really have the open world, which I liked the open world, but at the same time, like it dragged a little bit because of it.
Yeah.
In some spots when you're running around and going through different buildings, like I loved a lot of the letters, but it was just you could cut that down in those areas and put those in other areas where it's very small, and it would still have gotten the same effect across.
Yeah. 100%. But it's so long.
I know, God. I think I spent 48 hours, if not longer,
Yep.
in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
probably would have
spent
been
a really long
around
time.
the same. Yeah. And towards the end, the Abby stuff, I actually tried to rush through, but even then, it takes a while.
Yeah, I felt I did myself a disservice by doing that because I was just trying to get the damn game over.
Yeah.
Uh,
I feel like they probably designed it in a way that they could switch up how it actually played. Like I know we do the switch halfway, but I feel like the way they actually designed it, they probably have tried to have it maybe Abby first, Ellie second, maybe have it flick between the two. From a design perspective, I think they probably have tried it different ways, and this probably is the best way, all in all, from their testing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a better answer. I kind of like your idea of actually just making the second game just entirely about Abby, then leading into that. That would have been incredible.
well,
Um,
that's Josh's idea. He was
is
the one who
it?
came up with that,
He's
and
a
it's
genius.
freaking brilliant. Yeah, when he sat down and like explained that to me, and I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't have hated her.
Yeah, because I
I
kind of
wouldn't have
actually
hated
wanted
her.
I wanted the story to be someone different anyway. Like I loved how the first one ended. If they ever do anything again in the future with The Last of Us, I kind of just want different characters, like different stories and tales from within that world, because it is a really cool, well-crafted world. It'd be cool to get more in there, but I don't want the same characters.
I would love tales from like
Yeah,
different ones and like that. Oh God, it would be so much better.
yeah,
Because right now I'm just exhausted and I want to see other people's stories.
exactly,
But
exactly.
God, the second game, if they just you played Abby and you were jumping through time, but they don't explain what her motivation is really of why she's so upset. They don't really allude to it until the very end. Like throw that bomb right at the end of like, oh
Chills. I got chills.
shit.
Can
Like
you
it
imagine?
would have been amazing. And then going into this one where you play as both and you
Yeah.
feel for both, I think it wouldn't have been so dividing for people. I think it would have it would have been just the game of the decade kind of thing if they had done that versus the game of the year.
Well, this game is like 30, 40 hours long. They could have actually just done that where that's the first half of the game. Like they could have
It would have been
advertised it. Hey,
nice.
they could have advertised it as, hey, look, you are actually playing as someone different from the get-go,
Yeah.
and you are actually playing through that right up until that midpoint switch. And then who's going to be upset with playing as Ellie? Like,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of different. But imagine that. That would have been so cool building up to that moment, and then even something like even Phil said earlier, where you're around the table and then you're slowly both realizing who these people are. Like, Abby doesn't maybe know who this person is by what they look like, but you're figuring out slowly at this dinner scene, like, hey, shit, this is actually that person. And then Joel's like, why is she asking so many questions? What's going on? That would have been awesome.
Oh, yeah. I didn't. The thing is like with the scene with the zebra and everything, I didn't feel for the dad at all in this game. They didn't make me feel for her dad. I didn't feel connected to the dad, and like I felt like he was a fanatic the way he was going about trying to get the cure, because he didn't sit down and do like all the prop. It takes longer than like a half a day, and that's pretty much what they did. They took a half a day
Yeah.
and they weren't even sure that they were going to get a cure after collecting all the paperwork from the first game, and they're like they were not sure, they were not positive, but they were so desperate because it was everybody was dying and they didn't know what to do, and it was the first glint of hope in 20 years that they just jumped on it, and it's just like what the hell,
Mm,
man.
mm,
Ugh.
yeah. Oh, I agree, Robbie Good. So what's special to me is even a game so submerged in suffering and death and vengeance, the game's still about Ellie's love for Joel. I like that.
Yep.
I
And
like
his
that.
love for her.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Was there anything else? We've been going for about 3 hours, 10 minutes. You've been an absolute trooper. Thank you so much. But is there anything you want to add before we sort of sign off and say our goodbyes?
No, just the music in this game. I just
Oh,
love it, and it still
Gustavo.
sticks with me. It
He's
still
back.
sticks with me. He's so good,
He's
and just like
incredible.
that theme, and then like the music that they play in the game of just Take on Me and
Yeah.
Future Days will always have an impact on my life now. And I've always loved Take on Me anyway, but like it's now this totally different meaning, and like listening to the words and seeing like hearing somebody sing it, it has a different meaning.
That's one of the best covers of all time.
Oh yeah, definitely,
That's so good.
definitely one of the best covers.
So impactful.
They also sing it. The actual band, they actually Aha sings it acoustically too.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nice. It's closer to Ashley Johnson's, but it doesn't have the same impact because the way she sings those high notes is
I
gorgeous.
want her cover bad. It's
Oh my god! And I keep searching for it. You can probably find it and download it online somewhere or whatever, but I cannot find it
yeah.
on Spotify anymore.
Oh,
they
it's
took it
sad.
away.
And like I say, shout out to Gustavo for the score on this. He's so good. And if you haven't actually seen the Last of Us documentary, where they go into how he creates his music, and it's so good. Definitely make sure you check it out. I think it's on the PlayStation YouTube. You can check it out there, along with a whole bunch of the other cool documentaries that they do.
Man, as soon as he showed up to E3, like, cause he just this one person he showed up with a banjo, and the first notes he played, I was like, "This is The Last of Us 2!" I freaked out. I
That's
was
so
so
good.
excited. Oh, and it was gorgeous playing it on that freaking banjo. Oh.
That's
And
so
I love
cool.
Spanish guitar anyway, so when he plays like that theme, I'm just like,
And also shout out to Sean James. I can't believe he was on Kind of Funny. Like with his, did you hear that? They got that Sean
no.
James song. Because I've been listening to his music for a while, but they had his new version of Through the Valley on Kind of Funny. He actually wrote it, and they did that whole singing to Shuhei with Sean James. It was awesome. So if you haven't checked out that episode, definitely check that out. But I
Yeah.
love that song that they do. That's in the very first trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Through the Valley.
Yes.
And his music's just fantastic. Very dark and brooding. You got to be in the right mood for it. But It's it's very very good. Yeah. No, the
And
music
then
in
they sing
general.
that other song too during the credits, and you can actually find that one between Troy Baker and her. But yeah, oh god, just
Some other singles that I love are his Delilah and When It Rains It Pours. That's so good.
mm,
Definitely check that out if you can. People in the chat, it's so good. Yeah, but that's pretty much our thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2. Anything else you want to add?
no, I think we
No.
we definitely covered it in over 3 hours.
Woo! I feel like we did pretty well. So much for an hour and a half.
Actually, it's been longer because we started at 1:30 ish, and it's 5 p.m. now.
You're an absolute trooper for sticking right to the end. We've been
Oh yeah,
been
this is
dropping like
amazing. Thank you
flies.
for inviting me.
Oh, that was awesome. I've been wanting to talk about this game for a while. It's so cool. But
Well, they're all married and they all have like actual responsibilities in life and everything, and I'm just like here chilling in like my pajamas still at Josh's house, just like relaxing and having a good time.
oh, yeah, it's been a good time. I've had fun. That's awesome. And for everyone watching, make sure you give twitch.tv/LadyMacbeth BHTH a follow. She's fantastic. Follow her work there. And anything else that you want to promote or talk about? Any other socials that you want to sort of get out there so people can follow you on?
I'm on Twitter at Lady Macbeth. If you want to play games with me, it's Lady Macbeth on every platform except for my Switch, which is just Macbeth, and the Switch numbers and all that.
Yeah, we play on that new season of Call of Duty.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
I love that new season. Duty is so good right now.
Yeah.
So good.
Hell yeah.
I am a variety streamer. I stream so many different things, whatever I'm in the mood for. Right now it's just Ghost of Tsushima and Siege and Call of Duty. But yeah, this is pretty much all I'm doing. I can't work because the pandemic. Normally I'm a trivia host at a brewery and a pub. And until phase 3, which is never going to happen because nobody can wear a mask, I'm out of a job. So I have pursued this streaming, which has always been my dream, and this thing pretty much propelled me forward to do it. And I'm thankful a little bit in that way because I absolutely love this, and I love all of you guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
pretty
nice.
much it. This is me. I'm a huge Alien fan.
We know. It's a shame I'm so bad at that game.
Honestly, during Halloween, I'm going to do a replay of it for everybody, and I'm going to stream the whole
Oh,
thing.
I can't wait to watch that. That sounds like a
yeah.
great time. And thank you all in the chat for hanging with us. I know it's a long one, but that's been an absolute blast. I'm going to try and actually get it up on YouTube for people to watch again if you want to watch it again and digest it even more. But thanks for hanging with us. We love you all. And we're going to try and find someone to raid, actually. Let's, Reapers, maybe. Reapers Past. That could be a good one. There we go.
He just got a ton of subscribers right now. He's so excited.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's done it. Is that hosted it? I don't know. I'm really bad at it.
It always gives the time down. Yeah, it worked. It popped over.
The raid system's terrible at the moment.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much, though, for
Oh, thank you. 4 hours.
This was amazing. It was so much fun.
It's good to get it out, right?
Oh, God, I needed to get it out. I was just...
How'd the stream go, man? What did you stream?